Happy Friday, socialites. Welcome to the best damn social club in the universe. I am your host, Jedi ASU, and thank you so much for spending a little bit of your Friday night with me. I am extremely excited for tonight's guest, so make sure you go ahead, pour yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and let's get social. It is Friday, the 9th of October in the year of our COVID 2020, and we are here again with episode 28 with someone that I am actually extremely excited to talk with and visit this Friday night. We'll go ahead and jump right on into it. Steve, how are you, my friend? Happy Friday.
What's up, buddy? Forks up.
That's right. Go
It's,
Devils, man.
it's
Well,
like the worst forks up ever.
it's
Look
all.
at that thing. Like, I flashed it to Sparky one time, and he was just like, he actually talked to me, and he's like, "Come on, man, we're not trying to get killed over here. I'm
Look
trying to
at you.
make the big time." I
Uh,
asked him what the NFL, and he's like, "No, Mickey Mouse, man."
well, that's actually interesting you say that because I don't know if you saw the one with the interview with Joey Palomares, but he actually confirmed that one of the Sparkies, and I don't know who it is, I don't know the person's name, but one of the current Sparkies is actually a former NFL player.
Really?
Yeah, and so I guess they were supposed to make like a Sun Devil story or announcement about it this
Mhm.
season. Hopefully, they still get to,
Uh,
but it was just very interesting. A fan DM'd me during last
mhm.
season telling me this story, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I didn't want to know the name, plausible deniability, and all that because I don't, I don't want to get in trouble.
It's
But
it's great. I love those Sun Devil stories. I know they're never going to do one about me because it always start back with like, well, back I was doing some blow in the chemistry lab and partying with the sororities and like I don't know why everyone gives ASU so much shit about being a party school. I mean, we're good at it. I mean, you want to go to a boring school? Like, no one wants to go to a boring school.
exactly. Well, I mean, so we were talking while we were pre gaming. So
Mhm.
you moved to Arizona in the late '80s,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
that's really when ASU was really established. I mean, I remember when I graduated high school in the 1900s as well, but
Mhm.
I remember my very close friend wanted to go to ASU, and he just continually just told me stories about how the band used to play the Budweiser song, right?
Right.
Because they had an agreement, and so I mean, I think that's really what kind of made it easier for us to get so
Mhm.
hype with that. And then when I went visited my friend in the Cayman Islands one year, Playboy named us the number one party school. So I actually smuggled a Playboy into the Cayman Islands, which I learned when I brought it in was actually jail illegal. So like
You're gonna go to jail for Hugh. That's awesome.
that's right. So
Right.
I
Just
wanted to
because it
show
had
him.
ASU in it. It's like if they started packaging like kilos of cocaine with ASU logos, it's like, what's behind that curtain?
That's it. It's like this is, as they say, this is the way. This is the way.
Right.
But excellent. But I'm glad we were able to visit. So this is good. So now you've been in the state since '89. How did your fandom for ASU start?
So it it happened that when we moved here, my parents were Christian school teachers, and we moved from California to here.
Okay.
And so somebody in one of my dad's Sunday school class, he would sell the seat cushions. When you walk in
Yep.
the stadium and they rent
Right.
the seat cushions. So that guy was basically retiring, and so he asked
Okay.
somebody to take it over. So my dad was like, "Sure, I'll do it."
All right.
So I was in like third grade at the time, and we'd always go to Sun Devil Stadium for the games for both ASU and when the Cardinals were playing
Right
there.
on.
And that's when like it just really started,
Okay.
of being like, and I mean, when you're a kid, you know a little bit about football, your parents make you cheer for the Packers
Right.
or, some other loser team like the Cowboys or something. I don't know. But they so I would go to the games and we would get in an hour and a half before the gates would open.
Right on.
So I was a little kid, and so I started going down by where the tunnel was, where with the south end zone,
Right.
and all the players and coaches and everything would come out early, and so I'd ask them for autographs, and
Right
then I'd
on.
be there every game. And it really didn't like hit home that like I'm a Sun Devil fan for life until Felipe Sparks.
Yep.
Yep, yep. He basically was the most genuine, real, just nice person. I don't know if he thought maybe when he went to the NFL it would end up being like a E60 or something, or it's like he
Right.
helped the handicapped kid, like one of those. um, but he would always stop every time he'd walk out of the tunnel.
Right
He
on.
would, after the games, him and his family would basically look for me and have me come over, and they'd make sure every single time that I'd see him. And then through that, he started introducing me to like the other players
Okay.
and then the coaches. And then one time he actually talked, it was Coach Baki at the time, and he talked him into getting me in the locker room after one of the
Right
games.
on.
Yeah, and he gave me a ball to hold. Like this was before the game started. He gave me a ball to hold, and I held on to that thing like the entire game.
Oh,
It
I
was just
bet.
like holding it. And then I'd always wheel down by the locker room like halfway through the fourth quarter to get a good spot or
Right
something.
on.
And so I parked up in my little wheelchair, looking all handicapped and like right by the window, like extra pathetic, waiting for him because you could see through the window and you could see
Right.
the tunnel. So you could see him coming out. And sure enough, they both like came and got me.
That's cool.
And at the time, I was able to walk with like Forrest Gump braces. So I'm like
Okay.
waddling into the locker room, like, this is the greatest thing that's ever going to happen to me. I'm going to get to meet every single player. And I go in there and they're all naked. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in here anymore. It was like my first experience in a locker room with
Oh
like
my
other
God.
men, like 15 times the size of me. And I'm just like, and then they literally took me from every locker to each
Right on.
locker all the way down the list until I had the ball in my, signed and everything. So
Right.
that's really like when it started.
That's so
And
cool. What year was that again? Was that when you were in third grade, you said?
yeah, so that was probably 90.
Okay.
Yeah, 90 was, I think that was the year. I don't know. I drank too much in my 20s and 30s, so
Well,
um,
that is the way. That is how we
right,
do
that is the way.
it.
That is the way. But yeah, and then through the years, I would just start meeting different players. And the cool thing about Felipe was that his daughter Jordan at the time was a toddler, and
Oh,
she went
right.
to the daycare that was at our school. So I
Okay.
would see him, and then he went off to the NFL.
Right.
But it was great because he always played in the NFL or the NFC East. So he's playing for the Giants and Cowboys. And I got into every Cardinal game for free. So I'd get
Oh,
to
right
see him,
on.
and he would just come out and see me before the games, hug me. He would make sure his family found me to get me
Right.
in the back gate thing to get autographs. And then it just started growing, and it just different players. And then you would make friends with them, and then they would become NFL players. And you're still this kid,
Right.
and they're remembering you, and you were probably annoying as shit, but they remembered you you know
Exactly. That's so cool that around the program they were very open to it all,
hmm
right? And so you're able to do that, especially through the early 90s leading up all the way to the big Rose Bowl run in 96.
hmm
So I mean that just must have been kind of surreal, you know, getting to know that whole team, right? I mean
yeah,
just seeing and hanging out and some of the stories you have.
it really was. It was like the most like magical year of just football I ever can think of. I remember I was in my scooter and I rushed the field in the Nebraska game.
Nice.
I'm sure it's on video somewhere, me running over this lady's ankle. And it was crazy because I'm out there and I can't see anything. I'm like 3 feet high, I'm
Right.
I'm like a little person at a regular line at Starbucks,
Right.
and I
But
just couldn't see
everyone's
anything. And then somebody taps me on the shoulder and they're just like, dude, you need to move. And I'm like, what? And I look and the seas are just parting, and here comes the goalpost.
Oh,
And
look at that.
I just put that thing in reverse, and I didn't care. I was running over people left and right just to get out of the way. And so on the ticket it says come at your own risk.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right. Now, did you walk out with the goalpost? Did you get to ride out with the goalpost or anything? Or
No, I was still kind of young at that time,
oh,
so
okay,
I just kind of let everyone clear out. But I also went out when they beat Cal,
right on.
and and then because through those years I would meet Jake Plummer,
Right.
Pat Tillman, Juan Roque, some of those guys.
Hmm.
One of my comedian buddies, Brian Ritchie, was a backup kicker on that team. So you just kind of make friends with people, and then that kind of led. That was like 2 more years, yeah.
Okay.
So then I graduated high school after that. It was like 2 years after that. I graduated in '98.
Okay.
And then but I remember talking to Jake and Pat on their last game, when I saw them, and I was just like, "Hey guys, if I don't ever see you again, thanks for always being
Of
cool
course.
with me." And I go, "Who knows? You could end up playing for the Cardinals." And they both
And
looked
they
at me and
did.
just like laughed, like, "You are an idiot. Like, there's no way." And sure enough, it was, they got drafted and started playing. And then my freshman year of college, I just being honest, like, I don't know how things happen to me the way they do. Like, it's just sometimes I just can't believe it. Like the
Okay.
stories and the things I've been through in my life, that I'm just like, man, if I put this in a book, like no one would believe it. I mean, because I literally was wheeling through MCC's student section or
Right.
student union, and the Cardinals were there, and they had like a mock-up of the new stadium when they were trying to get it in Mesa.
Mm.
And it was one of the guys from the campaign. His name was Brian Heffron. And you know, they had like a student fair outside, like a job fair, and we were going to get cotton candy. And I don't know why I just said to him, I was rolling by, I was like, "Hey, you want some cotton candy?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then 2 days later, I was volunteering for the stadium campaign.
Right
I was
on.
working like 12, 13 hours a day. I was meeting all the Cardinals, like front office and staff. And then I was also working doing phone, like, trying to raise money for stuff. And then,
Right.
I gave him my resume and I started working for the Cardinals right
Where
after that.
now? Where were the? Because I left. Because I left in '98. So where were the Cardinal offices? Because I even when I was there, I didn't know.
Yeah, so they're in the Ahwatukee area.
Okay.
They had like a deal there, and then I know they had a deal to rent it with the city.
Okay.
And then all the players lived in the Ahwatukee area, so they would just go in there and train. So
Right. Okay.
um,
So that's where you would go. So that's where your office was. That's where you were at and
Yeah,
doing all that.
and I would see Jake and Pat all the time, and it was just kind of like, Jake would always look at me like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Ha, I told you."
Exactly.
And but Pat by far was, like like near and dear to my heart, just because of my interactions with him and the
Right.
kind of person he was. Um, it's
Because you knew him because you were attending games, so you saw him when he first came in, all through the way
mm,
until he graduated,
yeah,
right? And then
and
even after, you were able to see him playing during his
yeah.
NFL
And
career.
yeah, and I was working with him. I would get to see him like walking around the facility. There were times where, because to remind the viewers, I'm physically disabled, so if I make handicap jokes, I can do it. Um, but at the time, like, I couldn't drive, and so my dad would have to pick me up
Okay.
and drop me off and things. And I'd always have to wait for him to come get me, and they were still doing their school stuff. And so there was times where I'd have to sit outside the facility for like 30, 45 minutes waiting for him.
Wow.
And Pat would come every single day, and he would pull up in his station wagon. And I know. I asked him one time, I was like, "Why do
Yeah,
you
why
drive
was he
that?"
driving
And
that? I've
like,
never heard that he drove around in a station wagon.
he was just like, "It gets me from A to B." I mean, it was just that's just kind of how he was. I mean, he would ride his bike to training camp, and it's like, isn't like riding to Tucson downhill? That would be
Yeah.
like a little easier. Um, but he would always pull up and he'd always say hi to me, and he
Right.
would always say, you waiting for your dad again? I would say, yeah. And he'd say, well, if you're still out here when I'm done watching film, I'm gonna throw your chair in my station wagon and drive you home.
Right on.
And he would offer that every single day, and I would sit out there and be like, please, Dad, don't show up. Don't show up, or I'm late. I
Right,
want to
right,
ride
right.
in the station wagon. That's a memory you could never forget. Like, I rode in a station wagon with Pat Tillman.
Man, that is so brilliant that he's just, again, super practical, but again, he was there to take care of you, making sure you were fine and everything
You know.
else. But you were, that's outstanding. So now, what other non-ASU players in the Cardinals organization do you remember fondly?
Going back, guys that were like super genuine, nice guys that just cared about
Mm-hmm.
just every fan. And I'm going back, like Frank Sanders, Rob Moore.
Okay.
They were really great guys. A lot of the offensive linemen, I would party with them in Flagstaff. They were good guys. Um, I used to play Madden with why am I blanking on his name? See, that's how great of a friend I am. I forgot his name.
This was on net,
Um,
but it was network connected, or was it just,
no.
yeah? Because I was gonna say,
They would bring the PlayStation
right.
to the office, and they would walk in and grab me and be like, let's go downstairs and play. And they'd hook it up in one of the breakout rooms, and I'd be gone for like an hour,
Getting
and
paid to play Madden.
yeah, but I mean, there were great. There was a lot of great guys. Garth Jacks was. I mean, I'm talking about when I was a kid, and Larry Centers, and
Right.
kind of those guys. And then it was after Jake and Pat. I didn't really see. I left the Cardinals a couple years later.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but yeah, there's a lot of great guys. I mean, Donovan McNabb one time, like unreal story.
Sure.
So I was my buddy was a bar manager in Scottsdale,
Okay.
and
Which bar, by the way?
it was called the James.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. And so a lot of like celebrities would come in there and stuff, and I remember seeing an old Cardinal player that I knew, and he remembered me, and he was like, come hang out at the table, like we're gonna party." And I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm broke,
Right.
and so I was seeing this guy, and and I just didn't recognize him. Like, it was
Okay.
just something, and I just kept looking at him and looking at him. And this was the year after they went to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And so then I looked, I was like, holy shit, it's Donovan McNabb, because he shaved his head, you
Oh,
know?
okay.
And I was like, oh, and then they were like, tell him a joke. You're a comedian. And they were like, yeah, if you tell him a joke, you'll get this drink with us for free. And I'm like, well, if I get the drink for free, what's the worst that's going to happen? The cops could pull me over and ask me to walk the line. It was just something like stupid. And they loved it, and they laughed. And then they said, hey, we're going to go to Suede. Do you want to go with us? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to go to a club with Donovan McNabb and some of the other
Now,
guys.
what was
And
Suede?
it was across from Axis Radius,
Oh, yes. Okay.
like Scottsdale.
Yep.
And so so I was like, well, I got some friends here, and they're like, bring them. So they go and get the valet, and they
Right.
get in their truck, and I'm this handicapped kid that's got to crawl into this like lifted, beat up Toyota, because that's what my friend was driving at the time. And
Right.
they waited, and
Okay.
then we drove, and we went to valet, and he paid for our valet. And then there
Oh,
was a
that's cool.
gigantic line to get into the bar, and he waited
Yeah.
outside for me. Like, never met the guy
Oh,
in my
okay.
life. And he waited for me, and he cleared everybody out. And then we go into the VIP area, and it's like Amari Stoudemire, Sam Cassell,
Wow.
like, and it was just like, I'm lucky. Like, it's just it's just random
Right.
crazy things. I
It's
mean, I
just,
could tell you
it's,
stories after stories.
well, I mean, you're just surrounded by all these people that you see on TV, right? And you're like, oh my God, there's that person, there's this person. I mean, so I used to work at a bar. I used to bounce at Jets and Sticks, which was in
Mm,
Scottsdale.
mm,
And so the first weekend I worked was the weekend before Super Bowl 30.
Mm.
So I'm just there on a Sunday night, and all the celebrities didn't roll in until Monday. So walking around, and I had to watch. I was put. I had to watch Magic Johnson's table.
Mm.
There's another night. Deion Sanders and then Brett Favre, and I'm like all these people that you see, right? But they're just there to hang out and have a good time, right? Even though you're just not trying to lose your mind, right?
Right.
Being able to do that. So, but that's brilliant. And that was what year? That was recent.
What?
That
The Oh no, this was back in when did they go to the Super Bowl? It's when they lost at the end.
hmm
I think it was New England's first Super Bowl,
Oh, okay. So it was some
wasn't it? I
time
think it
back.
was New England.
I got it.
Yeah, I think
Someone
it
in the chat. Someone in the chat will bring that one up. But again, good evening, everyone. Paul Hornstein, PJ Saturno, how you doing, guys? As always, everyone that is watching, please feel free to go ahead and put your questions there in the chat as well, because we are here not only to be able to go ahead and share stories, but also answer your questions, whatever you may have about that as well, and what's going on with us is what's going on. I believe at the top of the hour, around that, depending on how we're going, PJ Saturner is actually going to join us and give us his beer of the week recommendations. So yeah, so we get to go ahead and check that one out. So that one's going to be good. So I do absolutely love your background. I think I gave you a shout out for that earlier while we were pre-gaming.
Yeah, it's my kid's like third grade Zoom meeting background. I just don't know how to change it, but
It's
hey, there's no lines. No one's wearing
exactly,
masks. So come
exactly.
on.
What is it? Pre
We
I was listening to a college football podcast. It was shut down full cast, and one of the host's daughters calls it pre germs instead
Yeah,
of instead of pre COVID. So
yeah.
that has been crazy. So now
We
you
actually
go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
please.
I was just gonna say we got lucky because my stepdaughter was in a dance group and they
Okay,
got chosen to go dance at Disneyland. So we went out
right
to
on.
Disneyland and then they shut down like 5 days later
When
and
was that? That was, I guess, in early
beginning of
March.
March,
Was that
spring
was
break.
what was that with? It was Disney organized, I'm guessing, right?
She's in a group. What is it? Can Dance,
Okay.
and so it was in the area at Adventureland. Is that?
Okay.
I don't know. I just paid the bills and rolled around.
I did the same. But
Yeah.
we did that in December. See, my eldest,
Mm.
Padawan 1 does that, and so her school was selected to perform at Disneyland, but it was at
Oh, nice.
Christmas, and it was called Dance the Magic. So they actually
Oh.
they did the parade all the way from Small World all the way up to Main Street.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so that's why I was asking, is like, was it the same thing? So
Yeah. It was fun, but I just realized like if I would have waited, I could have saved like 5 grand. So
at least you got to spend the well, I don't know how is it. At least you got to spend the 5 grand and go. Because can you
true.
imagine if it was like, oh, this is 4 grand, it's
Yeah.
non-refundable and all
Yeah,
this other stuff.
it was funny because we were in there and it was during the ASU Washington State game.
Okay,
And so I was wheeling around looking down at my phone, and
right,
it's like the most crowded place on earth. And I'm just like, excuse me. And then a
right.
couple minutes later, I'd yell, I was like, yeah, I'm like screaming. Like, that's right. Go Devils.
See, that's the one thing too that I actually try to do is that so I put an earphone. I put my Bluetooth in, and then
Mm,
I'm listening it in one ear. So I'm listening to Tim Healy and Kyle Dodd call the game. So
mm.
this way I can kind of walk around and just kind of listen to it. But like you said, if I get to yell, you know,
Oh,
people
yeah, you have
people like
to.
clear out. They're like, what's wrong?
Like,
These kids.
oh, fast pass at Dumbo. I just got it. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, actually, I don't know. So if you go back, if you watch the interview with Eric Menkus, Big E,
Mm.
his wife and his kids were there the day before the park shut down.
Wow.
So they were there, and it was like their last day. And then it's like all the buzz was going around,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden they shut the park down. I mean, they got their
Yeah.
last day in, but I'm just like, it's incredible, you know.
It I saw a ton of ASU people walking around like with ASU stuff. It was because it was during their spring break,
Mm.
and so the day we left, they were just going on spring break, and
Oh, got it.
you'd see people walking around, and I try and give them the forks up, and then they like flip me off because they don't get it,
Is
like,
that you get that too? Because here I live here in Northern California, and
mm,
so there's a lot of people, and so then I'll do the same exact thing. I'll throw the forks up, and they'll be like, they're like,
right,
they just like get all big eyed, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? I mean, I'm
yeah,
even wearing. I mean, I'm not wearing the gear tonight, but I mean, I'm even
right.
wearing the gear when I'm out. So I just don't under. I don't know.
Th- They're like, we're not in Tempe, bro. Come on,
What
like,
is that? That
I don't
annoys
know.
me. That
Hey, you know
annoys
what?
me.
If I'm in another state and I see somebody wearing something ASU and they're walking by me, gonna say something,
Hell yes, you have to.
because other than like the West Coast, like Midwest and like East Coast, like you don't see a lot of people just randomly walking around with ASU stuff.
You don't absolutely. And so it was actually when the night of the Jail Mary. Tell me. So I have a Jail Mary story the day after, but where were you and what were you? What happened? Where were you when the Jail Mary happened? Like, what did you
I
do?
was I was in a bar,
Okay.
pretty drunk, and I was sitting on the patio,
Okay.
and I was with my fiance at the time, and we were just watching the TV, and I was squinting through one eye, right? And I was looking, and I was like, "Did he just catch that?" And
Oh
then
man.
everybody just went nuts, and I literally all tried to jump out of my seat. I was so excited, because that's probably one of the greatest plays in ASU history.
Exactly. I mean, obviously the Nebraska game is like as a whole, right?
Right.
But the Jail Mary is a defining play. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
if there's always that one that we get to go through. And so I was at home. I was online, obviously, because I put myself into I pigeonholed myself to being online during games.
Hmm.
However, it was like I was pacing, and then all of a sudden I jumped, and then I punched my door, and I'm like, my friend, and that's solid. So I'm like, but the next so I was hyped the entire. You know how it was. You're just
Yeah.
wired for sound. The next morning, I had a 6 a.m. flight to Orlando for a conference. So I got no sleep, but I didn't care. And so I got on the flight. I flew all the way to Charlotte. And so I had it was a and it was a black forks up shirt. I can't remember which one it was, but I wore it I had it on the flight.
Mm.
And in Charlotte, this guy ran up to me, forks up. Did you watch the game? And I'm like, I'm in Charlotte getting
Yeah.
love like this because you're wearing your gear, and that's what you expect, you know,
Hmm.
to happen. And then so you want to kind of want to share that love, and then all of a sudden you don't get it back. You're like, man, what's
I
going
think
on?
it's gonna come with winning. Obviously,
Right.
it's gonna come with getting off. Sorry if you're a fan of it, but the Pac-12 network, I'm not really a big fan of it. But
We'll talk
um,
about that.
it. But it if our team can just consistently put it together, which I think they're definitely on the right track. I mean,
Right.
I think this year is going to be unreal. Um, but get you know getting players in these other states, like on the East Coast, to see the game,
Right.
and it's not midnight, their time. It's just why it blows my mind that they do that because nobody. I mean, unless you lived in if you've lived here and you're a fan or any other Pac-12 school,
Right.
you might stay up and watch it,
Hmm.
right? But no one's gonna sit up and I mean, ESPN, Utah playing whoever or whatever, ASU playing, unless it's a ranked team, no one's going to pay attention.
Yeah.
We need more visibility. And I think we're getting that. I mean, it's,
I agree. I think to your point, right? Because you had a couple points in there, right? One, that the team having a little bit more resiliency, but two, also getting exposure, right? Getting
mhm,
to the second point, right? It's appealing to the casual fan, right?
mhm,
Because you have the diehards out there, especially on Twitter and everywhere else, because they all know the Pac-12 After Dark hashtag. They like
mhm,
participating in that. So they're always going to be, those are the people you kind of already have, right? But I think, like you said, to your very good point, right? It's a matter of getting the casual fan, the person that has been up, watching their games at noon and making sure that they go ahead and stay awake for another 9 hours to be
right.
able to watch a good quality game, on the West Coast. And I think to your point, right? I think ASU is. I agree with you. ASU is turning that point, and I always point to the Washington State game last year
Mm.
and the Michigan State games as well. It's that slow, patient, grind it out. We have time, we can do it, and let's now. We fell back into something with that USC game last year where we gave them 2,000 points in the first quarter.
Right.
but they woke up, right? And the rest of the game was good. It's just, we won 3 of the 4 quarters, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
And you're right about the casual fan, and I know I might catch flack for this, because I'd always post in the Facebook groups and
Mhm.
stuff, like, I mean, there was times where it was just like, what are we doing? What are these calls? Like, what is going on? It was kind of like we have an NFL mentality, but is it the Jets? Like what's going on right now? And they would start turning it around, but if you brought it up, it was just kind of like,
Mhm.
you know, in my opinion, I think some people settled with like mediocrity, and it's
Mm,
like, I don't think, I mean, obviously that's not what our program's doing now,
right.
but it's kind of like you see fans and they're like, oh, well, we'll get them next time and like
Right.
stuff. And then it's like, no, you gotta get, this done. We gotta get more players. It's like, I don't I'm passionate,
Of
I
course.
want to win. I have to like watch the game by myself, or I'll break something. But it was and another point to that was, just speaking of Twitter, because um, I never really use Twitter. I
Mhm.
do, for people listening, I do sit down comedy, and so I use like Facebook to promote
Of
shows, and I
course.
didn't really use Twitter. I had like a live PD page where I just tweeted making fun of like the stuff that was happening on there, and then
Right.
kind of like that whole you know police thing, and I was just kind of like, you know what, I just don't want to get them,
Fair.
I don't want to make people upset on accident or
Right.
whatever. I have my beliefs and everybody does, and I don't um so then it was kind of like it was Josh Christopher,
Mm.
and I would just see, and then I'd see somebody posting about it in the basketball group, and then I'd see his tweets, and I just kind of like watched, and then I would see it was during the recruiting process, so everything he posted there was just Michigan, Michigan, Michigan,
Mm.
Michigan, Michigan,
Right.
Michigan, and I was like, man, like how you know how how do we look as fans to these players?
Mhm.
And I'd see guys like Eric Reed and Scott Soin, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Scott. But have you considered Arizona State? Some of these Twitter guys, and they would tweet and they'd do the forks up and everything. And so I'm like, you know what? I was like, I'm an ASU fan. I want to show these players that, the fans support you and we
Mhm.
want you here too. And so I would start tweeting them, and it was just kind of like casual. And then I'd start fighting with Michigan fans, and then um, after a while, um, you know, and apologies to Hod Rubino, I would tweet him all the time too, and then every now and then they would like retweet stuff to me, and I'm like, all right, cool, and then
Right.
there would be more players that would come, and I made this meme where it was like I just used the Batman Robin meme because it was just
Mhm.
the first thing there, and it said like Robin said like come to Mish, and then Batman slapped
Oh,
him,
that's not.
yelled timeout, and so I would always post that on the Josh Christopher one just to get people mad,
Of course, exactly.
and so then I just started using that template. And then I started making memes for different players, and then it was
Oh,
just
okay.
kind of going on, and but I just wanted to show the guys, especially as young kids that are being recruited, that yeah, you know what, we're here. We want you to come here,
Mhm.
and see that. Let us keep continuing to send that support and that love from ASU to these players.
Right.
And I think the coaching staff. I mean, I know like Antonio Pierce retweeted me a couple times, and then
Mhm.
like some of the other coaches, and then Kevin Mawai, my bad. Um,
Which I would actually very curious. You wanted
yeah,
to apologize. What's that? What's that
yeah.
about?
Well, I was trying to think of one for him, and I don't know why. I could have just Googled it, but
Hmm.
the pronunciation of his last name, and it was kind of like it was saying like it was supposed to say my way or the highway, but spelling with
Uh,
his name. And he tweeted back and he's like, "It's Mawai." And I was
oh,
like, "Oh shit." I'm like, I just pissed
late.
off a dangerous man, and then I was trying to like save face, and then
Right,
I would make other ones, and then after a while, like I told him it was my goal to make him laugh, and eventually I got him. But
right,
it's those guys are great. Like, and I love that the players and the coaches interact with the fans too.
right.
I mean, that's huge for the fan base. I mean, when you get likes from coaches, or
Of course.
you know, one of the some of my favorite new guys coming in are like Marcus Bowe
Hmm.
and Garrett Gillette, and some of these other guys like
Right,
that, Isaiah Glass, guys that like your tweets, and then it's kind of like, hey, cool,
right. Of course,
and I don't do it to, I hope I don't do it to annoy him, because that's never my
of
intention.
course.
um but y- you know it I don't tweet like the 2022s and 2023s, because I feel bad tweeting a kid that's still in algebra, you
Right.
know and so it's kind of like I always do a year out. And
Okay.
you know yeah, so it's great to see, and a lot of these guys are tweeting new recruits too,
It's
and
always a way that they're able to kind of recruit on their own, right? Bringing them in, saying, "Yeah, that we're going to build something big, or we're going to get
mhm,
lit, or whatever else it is," right? Because I know who was it? Ted Johnson's always been good at that, right? It
mhm,
was Manny Wilkins before that. So there's
mhm.
always one out there that's always trying to recruit on social media in some form or another, which is always
We
good to
need
see.
more.
And I think that's always an interesting um, conversation, like you said, being able to show your love for the school, right? I'm trying to wrap my head around this, right? Because they always say that you know football is a religion in the
Mhm,
SEC, even more so, even more so, quite possibly in Texas, right? But even all those other places, how do you get 100,000 people in Beaver Stadium in Penn State when it's
mhm.
literally in the middle of nowhere, where you know it's a matter of, okay, we need to fill 53,000 at Sun Devil Stadium, right? And I think, to your point, winning cures all. It always
Yeah,
will. It always will. But I think football is on its way. I think we're going to see it happen and get a little bit more closer this year. But I think basketball is going to be off the chain this year. I think it's actually going to accelerate just that
they're
much more.
they're stupid good. I mean, it's like it's unreal the talent that Bobby has on that team this year. I mean, you, it's it's crazy, because you start thinking like, obviously, with Josh Christopher, and then you think, you're like, man, this kid is good, right? And then you see the stuff that Marcus Bagley's doing, you're just like,
Right.
damn, this kid's good too. And then oh shoot, we still have Alonzo Verge, he's good, and then they're like, we just got Remy back, like,
Yeah.
wow. And then you think like, oh man, oh shoot, we got Jalen Graham,
Hmm.
and I think he's gonna have a breakout year. I
I'm so
really do.
excited for him, and I've always been a Tayshaun Cherry fan. I'm still waiting for him to have. He had a brilliant year last year. It was all on the defensive side. He didn't have to score, but man, he was just all over the place defensively,
He was.
which was a beautiful thing, right? So I agree with you. I don't know. There was an interview. There was an interview with Bobby Hurley on a podcast that I listened to while I was working, and it's just how he's talking about. Look, I'm similar to what Coach Herm Edwards said,
Mm,
right? It's like those are the kind of players we have to get, right?
mhm.
And I think I don't know if it's easier to be, or maybe the timeline is shorter to get those kind of players on your squad in basketball than it is on football, because there are so many moving pieces and
Right.
O line, D line, this, that, and build everything up. Whereas I think if you're able to recruit one particular teams here and there, I think basketball was a bit, and everyone was really excited about basketball. But for Alonzo Verge and Remy to come back, it's just that's what solidified it, just skyrocketed
Yeah,
everyone's perception.
and it, Tayshaun scares me though. He does. Do you play fantasy football?
No, no.
No? Okay. So
Go
for
ahead.
anyone who plays fantasy football like religiously, anytime their player like runs the ball or catches the ball, and they get knocked down or tackled, and you're just like, get up, dude. Come on, get up, get up, get up. Don't be hurt. And
Right.
that's how it is with him. It is because it's
Unfortunately,
like every time he gets hurt, it's like,
is he getting up?
yeah, and it's just like, come on, are you getting up? And then you're just like, oh man, like, did we just lose him for the year? And then
Yeah.
he's running around in the hallway. So, but think of it. I mean, just the guys that got coming in too. I
Right.
mean, Holland Woods. Did he decide yet? Are they going to redshirt him?
I don't know. That I
Okay,
don't know.
okay.
I think Coach Hurley had like his first presser this today. So yeah, I'm
Mm.
not sure.
Yeah, and but I like he did talk about where in the pressing he's talking about Verge and Josh Christopher having like a good rivalry, and they're playing on each side like four on
Right.
fours, and that's awesome because I mean those guys, those two guys alone, I who wouldn't want them on their team,
Right.
And now
Absolutely.
you're just putting so much fire on the court, as long as we don't burn ourselves out
Right.
and get too much in the hype. I Jordan K, I'm telling you, Final Four. Final Four, it's gonna happen if they can play together and they can stay healthy. I mean, people can laugh at me, but Bobby knows what he's doing. It's
Right.
and
I love that. I love the point that you said about the team not burning themselves out. And that's an interesting point, but I don't think Bobby Hurley is that kind of coach. And and this is my opinion, right?
mhm,
If you look back at remember that USC game where like they didn't have a field goal, but they scored like a free throw to win the game,
mhm,
but they hustled.
yeah.
They grinded it or ground it out. I don't know. Anyway, they were just grinding the entire time, and they hustled. Yeah, they built they they built a brick wall,
Mhm.
outside, but they were able to still grind it out. And it just seems that, like ASU football, there's a mentality shift, and it's like, okay, look, we're not going to be. I think they did. When was that? Was it 2 years ago when they were playing with their hair on fire and they were like 18-0, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden they took a dump, and then it just like the Pac-12 the Pac-12 play just took a crap.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge learning experience, but I don't foresee that happening. And you didn't see it last year, right? Because it was the whole thing last year where we're watching that you were just waiting for them to go sideways. You were waiting
Yeah.
for some sort of collapse, and it never happened,
Yeah.
which was brilliant, right? Because then we're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And now that everyone's coming back with this much experience, and then you have everything else, and it was just like, it's going to be good. But the other point, and before I ask you another, that podcast that I was listening to, and I'm going to have to put a tweet out on the podcast I was listening to, but the host asked Coach Hurley about his time at Duke,
Mhm.
and Coach Hurley was describing how ultra competitive it was because it kind of started from the host was asking your relationship with Christian Leitner and
Mhm.
how not contentious but just both of them were just so highly competitive that they were
Mhm.
just going at each other and they just did it. But what happened was, and it was infectious, right? It got everyone. So everyone was just, the practices were real intense and they're going at each other and everything else. But Coach K was able to step back and kind of play on that to strengthen them. So then when even though they're at each other's necks, when they're practicing, when they were on the court against someone else, all of that was redirected towards the other team, and that made them that much better. And to
Crazy.
your point, when you're talking about Alonzo Verge and Josh Christopher that way, they may be at each other's throats, but I think that's a brilliant kindling, if you will,
Mhm.
for that competition to be able to like, look, we may be going after each other and looking to start and all this other stuff over one another, but when we're on the court, it's gonna be fire. I
Yeah.
can't wait.
There's and by the way, I think you were describing The Last Dance.
Yes, that's where
Jordan.
it
Just kidding.
was.
Um, I think you know how you have teams that you have a couple guys and they go as those guys go, right? If
Yes.
they're cold, it's going to be a bad night,
Right.
right? And then you're hoping somebody else steps up. I think there's so many pieces to what, you know, they have now on the
Right.
court that, yeah, it's not going to be the end of the world if a guy goes cold, or if
Right.
two guys go cold because you still got three other that are on fire, it's just going to
And
be.
you'll just rotate them in until they get confidence to be able to shoot or make or whatever they need to do to make the play.
Yeah. I think they'll probably get a lot of like, well, there's too many scorers and there's too many, like, everyone's going to want points and there's going to be hype. And, I look at the program though, but it's like, you know, having Josh Christopher and Marcus Bagley and these guys in the program, I mean, those are the guys that are going to be drawing like
Hmm.
NBA scouts every game, and that's why I was kind of like, Remy and Ramel should come back because they're just going to be NBA scouts at every game.
Hmm.
They're going to get a ton of publicity on like ESPN and Sports
Right.
Center because of those guys. So it's kind of like, hey man, like, you know, if get some exposure, because again, we get horrible exposure. No one sees the Pac-12 network. It's on what? Like you got to pay $70 on Fubo,
Yeah.
to watch the games, and it's like, and that's it. Like, and that's sad. It's
Right.
sad.
It is to be able to have that lack of exposure. I think fortunately with basketball there is a little bit more flexibility in that
True.
they're, those bigger names want those basketball games because they're not 3-4 hours, 3-4 hour production, right? So they can be able to get someone in and do all this. So fortunately there's a little bit more flexibility. But I think to your point, I think there was some ranked games, like we played Oregon on the Pac-12 network,
Hmm.
like everyone wanted to see it, and it's like, nope, no one saw it. No one saw it
Yeah.
except for the handful of people that have it because you can't get it anywhere. And again, that's the disaster that the Pac-12 is. But like you said, from an exposure perspective, Remy is now in the national player conversation.
Oh yeah.
He's getting ranked that way. So I think it's just brilliant for him to be able to come back and, albeit play a truncated season, I still think it's going to be a 75% or so type of season where he'll be able to play. And I just think his leadership, his fire, his experience. I mean, he was one of those first guys to come in and really take to Coach Hurley's system.
Yeah.
It's almost like when Brandon McGee was an Erickson recruit, right? And he
Mhm.
came in and just completely glommed on to the the Todd Graham system, and it just was one of those leaders that it just went a long way. So that's why I'm so excited for everyone else. But also, we're in the one and done situation. I mean, obviously with Josh Christopher, I wish he would stay longer, but I
Right.
mean, that's the second one and done. So it's a curious problem for us to
And
have.
Bagley could be too. I mean, the way Coach Charlie's talking about him, it's just, I think he said that his son called him a cannon or something just because he was just, draining threes. And but that's, it does suck, but it's also
Right.
kind of cool because then it's like, oh man, if I'm gonna be a one and done, maybe I can go to ASU and play,
Right.
for somebody who's won two tournaments,
Hmm.
and in a amazing city.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be good publicity. Sure, I'd love for them to stay, but the one thing I'll say about Remy though is I'm really excited to see what he's going to do this year. I know, and I'm guilty of it. I kind of gave him, like, not to his face, but on social media and
Hmm.
stuff, I kind of gave him some shit for that game where he had the threes and and all that kind of stuff. Where he got, unfortunately, fans booed him, and
Mm.
it was kind of just one of those heated things. But the one thing I'd say about Remy is that, he's been training all off season for
Hmm.
the NBA. So now he's going to come in, Lord willing, physically fit, ready to
Right.
play. Maybe he's been working on a shot. I mean, he just joined the team, I think, a couple days ago.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm really excited. And sorry, Remy, I didn't mean it. I love you. I
We're
love your
all
hair.
passionate, and I think that's a lot of people. I mean, it's like even then. I mean, I don't tweet at players, but I remember tweeting stuff that was kind of indirectly aimed at whatever this or that. So no, but
True.
we're all passionate. It's like we're not trying to be. I think everyone's gets caught up in the in the moment, right? But
Yeah.
that's always the case. But I mean, fortunately, as long as there's always a opportunity for us to be able to be forgiven. So, but that's it. And like Paul Hornstein was saying out there, right? It's like basketball is getting tougher because top players rarely stay more than a year,
Mhm.
right? And that's always a thing. As much as I don't like talking about the school down south is one of those programs that can recruit year in year out, right? And because they do have a national championship, albeit
Right.
it's as old as our Rose
History.
Bowl appearance, it happened the same year, which is
Mm.
crazy. But like I said, you're able to do that, and I think that's who Bobby Hurley is for ASU. So long as we can continue to keep him and pay him what he deserves, because I think that's going to be the key, right? Is being able to come up with the money to keep him and let him continue to build that. Because if he stays, and we're lucky enough for him to stay, it's going to be ASU hoops which has always been unfortunately a doormat,
Right.
with a few bursts here and there. But I think it was I don't know if it was Kyle Dodd or if it was Eric Mankus that said that there's been many years of bad basketball,
Mhm.
unfortunately, and now it's just so unusual to be in the situation where there's going to be good basketball, good, exciting, nationally recognized basketball. It's
I
going to be a
think
good
that's
time.
why, I think that's why I was always trying to just hope and pray, God, let us play this season, let them
Yeah.
figure it out,
Yes.
somehow, some way. And for a while it was looking bad, and I was just like, oh man, how are we, are we cursed?
Exactly.
We get probably in both football and basketball and even baseball at the time, it was like we have like the best teams and we can make a serious run, and then
Right.
it's like, oh shit, you know. Um
It always goes about, and I think that's the battered fan syndrome, right? We're always used to that, where we're hype, or even then we're unranked. That means we're going to be good, and then we're over ranked. Oh, we're going to suck again.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I would start tweeting a lot more during the shutdown and all that stuff. And because it was kind of like you still have these players that are coming in this year and just like commenting on stuff like, hey, you know what? It sucks. You might not get to play, but we're still supporting you.
Right.
We don't want you to go anywhere. We don't want you to, feel like the fans don't care,
Right.
And so, but yeah, I'm I'm still holding hope.
It's
I'm
interesting you
I'm
say that
excited.
though, and I'm with you, and I think I'm holding more hope for the basketball season than I was
Yeah.
for football,
Well,
only because, well, I mean, football is going to happen regardless, whether there's games canceled. I think the other thing, but I think basketball has a greater chance of succeeding, only because the conference started talking about plans on how to hold the season last month. Right? They're
mm,
not wait. It's not like we don't know. They're like, yeah, maybe it's pods, maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's, but at least they're thinking about it rather
right.
than, okay, we'll tell you in November, right? 2 weeks before we start playing. It's like that's not going to help.
Yeah, and I think logistically it's probably easier to do it with basketball than football, but
Right.
I have to see this team play. Like
100%.
football. I mean, how do guys that are still deciding between ASU and other schools, and I get it, a lot of these other schools have history and things
Right.
like that, but man, you know, you get to spend 4 years with the most motivating man on the planet who could make AstroTurf grow just by talking to it.
Right.
I mean, he could get me to try and walk. I mean, Herm Edwards is I mean, the guy, I would like to just park behind him or, when he's in a drive-through ordering just to hear it. And I'd be like, hell yeah, I want the Travis Scott meal, man, or whatever
Right.
he's ordering. I
Exactly.
want this. I mean, not even just that. You know, Antonio Pierce, these and Marv Lewis and all these guys like how Kevin Mawae and Adam Brenneman and all these different coaches and Coach Rod, and it's like, how could you not want to play here? You're
Right.
playing with guys who have done it, guys who are not just done it, they're in the Hall of Fame, you
Right.
know? How
Absolutely.
would you not want to? That's why I always say to basketball like recruits too. How would you not want to learn from the best guard in college history? How would you not want to learn from that?
It's funny
You know?
you say that, right? Because because I don't know where I was seeing that. Some people are like, the kids nowadays have to go to YouTube to understand Bobby Hurley's
Mhm.
greatness, right? The parents know who he is and they tell,
Right.
right? But it's like the kids are like, "Oh wow, look at this. It's like he's on YouTube and this is what he did and XYZ." So, but to your point, absolutely. And again, I think that's definitely I always gave Ray Anderson shit publicly, not directly,
Mhm.
but just I know there's a lot of things that I tweeted out in a negative form just because I didn't understand, and I guess that's definitely something I need to do as I get older. Is just like let me lie low and try to understand. But bringing in, Bobby Hurley was our second choice. I think it was it Christian Capel or something else? He was an assistant out at Duke, I think.
Yeah, I
That he
think it
was our
was.
number one, and then it was Bobby Hurley, right? And then Herm Edwards came in, but again, it's just everyone that's been behind him, right? It's like you said, it's unbelievable that all these coaches are here. And I always say this, they've made their money, right? They've all been in the league. They're not
Mhm.
trying to chase another head coaching job um like Norvell or like Chiplum or whoever the other assistants on the Todd Graham tree were, right? So that's why hopefully it gives us a bit of a longevity be able to
Yeah.
want to be here, right? So, have you met or coming up at the top of the hour? Have you met Coach Hurley and or Coach Edwards?
I have been within like 10 feet of Hurley,
Okay,
and I was at the ASU Louisiana Lafayette basketball game,
okay,
and I was looking for tickets, and I found like front row seats right behind the scores table,
okay.
and so I bought them, and they're only like they were like 35 bucks. I was
You
like,
got a steal.
gotta be, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it was one of the earlier games a year, but yeah, it was really crazy sitting down there because one, the people who sit around you like don't really cheer too much. They're just kind of the like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're rich, we're alumni. I mean, they cheer, but not like crazy. And
They're not like the
how I would
942 crew.
imagine it would be in the
Yeah.
front row. You know what I mean?
Of
Would
course.
you imagine it would just be like a front row at a band, right? It's ruckus. You're like
You want
tossing
to
people
cheer, you want to
around.
get rowdy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But all the players and coaches would walk by, and so that was kind of cool. And then Herm was on the other side with Ray. I would honestly, out of the two, I I'd choose to meet Herm over
Okay.
Bobby. Like, I like Bobby, don't get me wrong,
Of
but
course.
just because, the things that I've gone through in my life and, trying to help motivate others,
Right.
to get past what they're going through, that's just kind of like how he is and the kind
Very
of
nice.
person he is, and
Okay.
that's who I'd want to meet.
Right on. I was lucky enough to meet Coach Hurley at an event
Mhm.
here in Northern California. So it was good to have just, one-on-one face time with him. But I agree. I would love to meet from Edwards just because it just when you meet Coach Edwards, like you said, it's uplifting and motivational, right? And you just want to be able to do it's like, okay, now go run now jump from the coach box, land on this and go do something like okay. And you just go ahead and make it happen, right? So it's always that would be good to do. So, yes, I agree with you, Paul Hornstein. It is actually odd to look forward to basketball season. Very strange for Sun Devil fans. But we are at the top of the hour. PJ Saturno is going to be joining us shortly and to do his beer of the week. So if you want to go ahead and jump on into the Zoom session, good sir, we can go ahead and do that. For everyone else, you can go ahead get yourself a drink, make yourself comfortable and be able to do anything else. But we are here with Mr. Steve Krause, Short Bus Comedy on Twitter and same thing on Facebook.
Yep.
Yep.
Same thing on Facebook and the Window Lickers on Instagram.
Window Lickers. Is that
Yep.
that's it.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that one?
It's just the guys I used to go to school with on the bus.
I love them
We
both.
all were special.
That's funny. I love it, Window. That's so funny. So those are outstanding. And so I want to talk about your comedy when we come back, obviously, but
Yep.
also I know that there's a couple other stories that you have in there. I know everyone else is interested in seeing those. But
Sure.
if you want to take a break, what we're going to do is take a 10-minute break if you'd like. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and switch over so you got about until 8:15. So I
8:15.
will leave the Zoom call on so you'll be able to see me, but the stream it'll just be yourself. So we will talk
Okay.
shortly. So
All
thanks
right.
much. Everyone, thanks again. Again, we'll be coming back at 8:15. We have two announcements, as you can see here on the page. We have the virtual Sun Devil Summit on Friday, November 6th, starting at 5:30 Pacific time. And it's going to be somewhat a little truncated, only because we have our first virtual tailgate of the year. Saturday, November 7th, starting at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern for all of you guys out there that's going to go ahead and do a tailgate and watch along of the game. So what I'll do is I'll be leaving the Zoom call open after the tailgate. We'll go ahead and talk about some of the things that will be going ahead, and we'll actually schedule a couple guests to talk about the game right before it happens, sort of a preview. So we look forward to having you there. If you have not attended a Sun Devil Summit, make sure you DM or email me your email address, jediasu@gmail.com, and I'll make sure you get on the list. But what we'll be doing is we will actually resume in about 10 minutes, and we will go ahead and go through Crafty Devil's Beer of the Week, and we will go ahead and resume the show shortly. So again, we'll go ahead and go back to the slide, but we will see you in about 10 minutes. So thanks again, everyone, and we will talk and resume shortly. Welcome back, everyone, and thanks again for joining the 42 Social Club. We are back here live with Steve Krause, but we also happen to have BJ Crafty Devils on the line as well, and everyone can go ahead and kind of see us here. So, welcome to Crafty's Beer of the Week, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what you have to share with us, PJ. So tell us what you got on deck tonight.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited tonight. I got some beer shipped to me this week. I had a beer introduced to me at two years ago at South by Southwest by one of my good friends, Mike, who lives in Connecticut, and it's from a New England Brewing Company, which is in Woodbridge, Connecticut.
Okay.
And the beer is called Fuzzy Baby Ducks, and it's a hazy IPA, and it's one that I think was probably at the beginning of the whole hazy situation.
Okay.
But we sat outside of Franklin's Barbecue in Austin, drinking these out of the ice chest at 8:30 in the morning, waiting for Franklin's to open up, and it's just such a tasty beer. In fact, Tara was so excited when I broke it out tonight that it's one of her favorites as well.
Right
And
on.
I also got with it. I haven't tasted it yet because it's not just it's Attack of Duckzilla, and it's a triple fuzzy IPA from the same brewery. So looking forward to that before bed.
Yes, because I remember I almost bought a triple IPA. So, Altamont I just saw Altamont can and sell at my local grocery store, hella hoppy. So I
Nice.
almost bought it, but I figured I need to make it through the show semi-coherent. So what I actually got was by Barrel Brothers, floating in a most peculiar haze. As you just taught me, a DDH or double dry hopped double IPA with Bowie on the label. So it's good. I like it. It's nice. I am drinking it in my Rula Bula Pat Tillman
Nice.
Guinness glass, so I am enjoying that as well.
As I turned on the show tonight, I didn't know who Steve was, and when I turned it on, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, yeah, I've seen him before, and I recognized him from seeing him at the Improv. Big comedy fan myself, and pretty sure I saw him doing shots at one of the bars on Mill as well at one point a couple years back. So
I don't know if
honored to be here.
I don't know if it was shots or if I was testing the new draft beer, Luka Luka Papa Wapa on the Flora.
I saw you
They sound like weed strains. They sound like weed strains. I love it. It's just like we're gonna come up with the greatest names. Here, drink Bob's beard. You're gonna love it. No, that's great.
And if it has a great label, then I'll buy it. It may taste like garbage, but if it has a cool label, I'll buy it.
I was just reading this past week. Brewdog, I think it's Brewdog from Scotland, maybe, just brewed with another brewery. They did a collaboration. Apparently, for the past several years, they've been going back and forth trying to brew the strongest beer ever. And this year, they got together and brewed a beer that's called Strength in Numbers, which I think is a reference to Idols, one of my favorite band's songs, but it's 57.8%.
So, tastes like motor oil. Right?
Has to. I mean,
Did you try it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not thinking they're making that available to too many people. So,
that must be like brilliant.
Absinthe.
Yeah.
Right? Because how can it take? With that kind of ABV or ABU or ABV, which one is it?
ABV. Yeah.
It's just like because I've had the 120. Dogfish had 120, and it almost tastes like a syrup. So I just don't understand. If you get a 20% or a 30 or 40, much less a 56% type of beer, does that really taste like beer?
Yeah, it's got to be an insane taste, I'm sure. At that ABV, there's just nothing that I can imagine. I've got a Dogfish Head, a new one in the fridge, and I've got a few stored at home. They're one of the few IPAs you can age.
Yes.
And it's, I think they say the range is from like 12% to 13.5%. They don't even know,
wow. It's just okay. Just
So
yeah, never drive, but then don't drive when you're drinking a 120. Because I had a 120 once, and it was actually I found it in the town south, and I was there visiting my parents, and I just kind of like lost my shit. I was like, how is this here? I mean, Dogfish Head doesn't. I mean, some Dogfish Head makes it out here to the Bay Area, but like, not never a 120. And so that's why I was like, these guys were like, you should have brought it back. I would have traded you X, Y, Z, and I'm like, that's the world of beer trading. So anyway, but that is good. But I appreciate you, man. What else? So yeah, we'll do this again. Those are the two that you have. Hopefully, you have a couple coming up the next week. Anything that you recommend locally for everyone to try this week? By the way.
some of the, I mean, still, I think through this whole pandemic, I think Goldwater Brewing's just been crushing it. They've been releasing a couple new beers every week. If you haven't been there, they're open now, and they've got a huge patio now. On the outside, they kind of converted the parking lot to picnic tables, and then the upstairs. I'm really anxious once the weather gets a little bit nicer to sit up on top of the roof, which is part of uh, the recreated Dash Inn as well, which is right next
Right
door.
on.
So
Okay.
anxious to go there, but not too excited to get out too much here with everything that's still going on.
No, I understand. I understand. Well, make sure you again. We'll need one. We'll need your recommendations on next week's show, the week after, and hopefully you'll be able to do a whole slate of them for us on the virtual tailgate
I,
on the 7th. So
Whole sampling.
exactly, if you could, that
I
would be.
appreciate it.
We appreciate you, PJ. Thanks
Yeah.
again so much, man. Really
Honored to be on with you, Steve. Thank you.
Hey, take care, all right?
Take care.
Thanks,
Yep.
man. See ya. There we go. Now we got you.
Oh, I figured it out.
Look at that.
I figured it
It's
out.
Mawai. I love it. I love it.
I had to throw one meme in there.
That's right. You had so given what PJ just shared, and that's brilliant, and I wanted to talk about it. Obviously, there's a couple stories that I wanted to get to, but Padawan 2, my son, he is absolutely loves comedy. Has a fascination with it. I saw you shared with him that Russell Peters even interviewed you, and you know him from conversation. But tell me more about your comedy. Like, how did you get into it? Right? How'd you start and all that other fun stuff?
I hate my life, and so I just wanted to make it more miserable. I actually started one of my buddies. His name was Josh Skalniak, and
Okay.
he was doing comedy for a while, and it was local. And I would go and see like his opening or his first time he performed at the Improv, and I was just like up there. And then I'd start going to the Improv a little more, and then one time I went and saw Jim Brewer,
Right
and
on.
it was just from beginning to end. It was I when you experience that for the first time, where you see a comedian and you feel like you're gonna throw up, you're laughing so hard, and then I
Absolutely.
was like, I want to do that. I've always been
Okay.
really outgoing, and I always joke around. And I think being disabled, I kind of had to use that to, when you meet new people. And I went to elementary school where I was the only disabled kid all the way through high school,
Okay.
so I wasn't around other disabled people and things. And so I always had to help. I don't want to say help, but just let people know that just because I'm physically
Right.
disabled doesn't mean I'm someone, some other
Of course.
different person. And so I would use humor, and I would always talk about it with friends. And then I signed up for comedy classes, and I started doing that. And then I was still working for the Cardinals at the time,
Okay.
and but it just kind of started growing more and more and more and more. And so I've been doing it for 15 years now. And Russell Peters is actually the first person I ever opened for at the Tempe
Okay.
Improv. And so that was back in 2005. So we've been really good friends since then. And he's actually my daughter's godfather.
Right on.
And so, yeah. And he was the one that took for the Rocky Steps.
Okay.
That's how that ended up happening,
I
was
was
with him.
gonna ask, right? Because I was watching the video. You said it
Mhm.
ended. It started as a joke, or
Yeah.
what was? How did that all start? Because again, so for everyone that's out there, right? So all the viewers out there, just so you know, Steve has actually done he climbed. the Rocky Steps in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Art Museum, right? All 70, how many was
Two,
it?
two.
72. And so he trained and did everything, but he did it with your back and with on your back with your neck, right? So it was a
Hmm.
combination of both. So it's a beautiful, brilliant video. But how did that start, right? What was it that, where was the inception of the
Sure,
idea?
sure. So I think, and just I'm gonna kind of have to backtrack for a little
Please.
backstory of it, but when I was when I was doing comedy and everything, and I was partying too hard. I was drinking constantly. I
Okay.
was like, falling out of my chair. I was just
Okay.
it was destroying my life, and so I actually went to rehab
Hmm.
and got clean. And so Russell had said, if you stay sober for a year, I'll take you on the road. And, getting to perform on the road's awesome, but that's kind of where the problem was, is because it was like a party every week. And
Oh,
that's kind
got
of
it.
led to all the depression and,
Understood.
substance abuse and, things like that. And so I stayed sober for a year, and he's a man of his word. So he said, "All right, well, I'm opening the new Philadelphia Punchline, and do you want to go? And I'll fly you out and take care of your hotel and everything." And I was
Right
like,
on.
"Yeah." And then I said, "Hey, man, maybe we can go to the Rocky Steps and we can get like a baby carrier, and you could fit my my crooked body in there, you know, and carry me up all 72. And then when you get to the top and you pump your fist in the air, I'll pull a little thing and I'll fall out, you know, and it'll look like you gave birth to an ET baby." And we were just kind of joking around about it. And I said, "I'll hold like a cord. We'll hook a
Right.
cord to your belt and no one will see." And so then,
That would have been fantastic too.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? It literally didn't even take a minute for me to think to myself, and I text him right away. I go, "You know what? I'm gonna do it myself." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get out of my wheelchair and I'm gonna crawl up the steps using my neck and back." And he's like, "No way." And I go, "I'm gonna do it." And then I was like, "Shit, I said I'm gonna do it. Now I gotta do it,
Yeah, you got
And so yeah, so I started training, and I was wheeling to a gym by my house,
Okay.
and it was like an able-bodied gym. All the people in the stairmasters were judging me, but um, so I started working out there, and I'd go every day, and I'd figure out a way to use the equipment with,
That's cool.
and then, he kept his word. I went to Philadelphia, and by this time, Channel 12 News and
Hmm.
Bruce Cooper and a really good friend of mine, Chris Peterson, who actually did that video,
Okay.
he's a camera guy for 12, Channel 12
Yep.
Sports. And
Cameron Cox was in that segment too, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay.
yep. And so then they found out, and they brought me in and did that interview. They did then Channel 10 found out, and so then they did an interview, and then it just kind of took off from there. And then I'm
Okay.
like, "Oh shit, I really got to do this now. I really got to do this."
Right. It was a full. How many months did you train?
I trained for 3.5 months, and
Okay.
I lost 37
Good
pounds.
on you, man.
Yeah. And we were just figuring out ways to, because obviously I didn't want to go, and because I was doing it with no pads.
Okay.
There was just my t-shirt and my butt and my back,
Right.
back of my head. That was it. There was nothing else. And so I didn't want to go and start practicing on like a flight of stairs, and
Okay.
then get all hurt and then not be able to do it. So we were putting together like those step things, that you can see in the video where I have the bar across my lap and I'm
Got you.
crawling up the stairs. So
Right.
that was kind of our version of, mock steps.
Right.
And but the thing I didn't realize was when I got up the first flight of stairs, I was like, "Well, this ain't that bad." But I didn't know you still had to crawl like another 5 to 10
It
feet to
is.
get to the next flight. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a
And
first landing. It's not a straight shot.
no, and it looks so deceiving
Right.
because you look like you're almost there. My buddies would be like, "Hey man, you're almost there." And I'm like, "Am I?" And they're like, "Actually, no, you still got a ways to go."
And it's not
And
even halfway. It's like a third.
yeah, yeah, it was bad. And I could really start feeling it like halfway up, but
Okay.
the adrenaline. And then Channel 12 hooked it up with their Philadelphia sister station.
Right on.
And so they were out there filming, and all those people that are in the video, they're just random people.
Right. They're
I mean,
just
other than
people
my
there.
friends.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I get to the top, and I'm up there, and I'm just beat,
Right.
exhausted, like almost in tears, just more of like I was happy I was able to do it because
Absolutely.
it had a deeper meaning for me. Because through my life and my depression and things that I've gone through,
Right.
and the substance abuse and just like the suicidal
Hmm.
tendencies and thoughts and things
Of
like that,
course.
it was hard. I never really accepted that. I always just pretended that I was just like a normal person,
Hmm.
because that's kind of how I would try and portray myself. And people would always tell me that, but in the back of my head, I'm like, bullshit, I'm not,
Yeah, you're in
And
your own
so that,
head.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And so each flight was kind of like proving that just because I'm disabled, I mean, I'm still capable of doing, it's not
Absolutely.
a roadblock. My disability isn't the depression. It's just stuff that's a
Hmm.
speed bump, and I just have to get up and move over. But I got to the top, and I was so like, I mean, we're talking like 10, 15 years of just beating my body to death
That's so
and
cool.
then being able to accomplish something. And then the Philadelphia News comes up, and they go, "Oh, well, we're filming live for the morning show right now. And you did this a lot faster than we thought you did. And would you mind going down like a flight and then going back up, and we can record you getting to the top?"
You
And
bastards.
yes, you bastards, Mimsy. It was, yeah. And so I had to go down that last flight and climb back up.
Do it again.
Yeah, so I
Oh.
did it 1/10 of time. So, but I would do it. I wanted to do it twice
Right.
because that was kind of my goal, was to go right back down and do it a second time.
Okay.
But I was just so like badly cut and
Mm,
bruised and stuff. So then I get off the plane coming back from Philadelphia, and
right.
then
How long did
Chris,
it take you, by the way, before you go into
I
the?
think it was like 14 minutes.
Oh wow, that's cool. Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah. But
That
they
is a
made
good
it they
pace.
made it sound like it was an hour.
Mm,
Yeah. So that was kind of like a little, kind of, for me it was kind of like, damn man, why that's like getting short a sack
exactly.
in
It's
a
like, why
game,
are you doing that
like,
to me?
hey, why are you giving that guy a
Yeah, why
sack?
are you
I was there
halving
too.
it?
It wasn't from me, you know.
Right.
And
But you
so
come back home. You come back
yeah,
home. You're all beat up and bruised.
yeah, and then they bring me in Channel 12, and I do another news story, and that's when I told them I was going to do the Brooklyn Bridge,
Okay.
and because that was my next goal, was to do that, crawl
Right.
across that, and then start doing monuments and
Hmm.
different famous sites. And then I got ran over by a car. And right outside work, I worked at Yelp, and I gave the alley a 1-star review. It had no mirror, and the
Right.
guy backed out and drugged me, like
Wow.
5 feet, and my friends were running across the street banging on the windows to get him to stop. And yeah,
Mm.
I was so badly injured, the EMT showed up, and they just put a blanket over me, and they were like, "There's nothing we can
They
do for this
didn't
guy." And then
really.
my buddies were like, "No, that's how he looked before the accident."
Oh
And
man.
and
Dude.
so I'd always and here's the crazy thing about it. I'm telling you earlier about like
Yeah.
coincidences and things that just happen in my life. The guy who ran me over, I looked him up on Facebook, and he is married to my old roommate's girlfriend, who used to be at our house all the time.
Oh
And I'm like,
man.
she's following me. I knew she was gonna try to
Exactly.
kill me one
Just
day.
give me-
And yeah, but then
You
yeah,
scorned her, man. Hell
yep,
hath no fury like a woman
right,
scorned. So you're
right.
gonna find someone who'll do that work for you.
Yeah. And then I'd mess with the other guy's insurance. Like they'd call me and they'd just be like, "Hey, how you doing? You doing okay?" And I'm like, "I'm
Man,
never
they
gonna
must have
walk again, bitch," and like hang up.
because they
Yeah,
don't know.
they don't
Oh,
know.
that's a
Yeah.
that's so good. Oh
Uh,
my god.
so
But to that point, right? We were talking when we were pre-gaming. You've done one important landmark to all of us. You've actually done the stairs at Sun Devil Stadium. Was
yep.
that like before the accident?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So it was my best friend Ryan, who was in the video with me and
Okay.
helped me get up there. His mom is a board member for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation,
Okay.
and so they asked me to come and climb the stairs. And so I was like, sure, I'll do it, and for him and
Of
everything he's
course.
done for me. And so I went out there, and I was in this, was it the southwest end zone, in the
Right.
corner, like
Yep.
section 3, and I was at the bottom. And so I'm like, all right, but this time I'm using pad, 'cause
Right.
I'm like, there's no way I can do, because the steps are a little, shorter,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going to be a lot more physical to do. And so I get there, and I'm wearing this, like, I get one of those goalie jerseys, that's got
Okay.
the padding, the practice ones, and I turned it around backwards, and
Right on.
I had like a wakeboarding helmet, and I was like, this isn't gonna work either, so I threw
Oh,
that
it's
off.
too much. Yeah.
So they go, all right, everybody. So here we go. We're gonna start. And so they start the thing. Oh, I forgot to tell you. They
Yeah.
wanted me to do comedy before that too.
Look at
Yeah.
them taking everything.
Yeah. So I can say this on my resume. I was on the loudspeaker at Sun Devil Stadium
Right on.
and talking to about 40 people. It's like in a 60,000 seat stadium. It's kind of like any show I do on a Tuesday,
Right.
5 p.m. And
You have
so
you've talked to stadiums. There might have been
yes,
only
I've
40
talked to the
people.
masses, right? The stadiums. And so I start climbing, and the one thing I didn't factor in was the bleachers.
Mm,
And so when I was climbing, my head was going like this,
right.
just side to side, and I was probably literally an inch and a half away from hitting them. And so my dad was always having to put his hand on the corner to make sure I
Right.
didn't get knocked out. But that was, and the crazy thing is when they started, I thought these people were like gonna walk the sections, because they only did the west stands, like sections
Okay.
4 through 12,
Right.
and they ran down and up, down and up and down and up. So they were done in 3 minutes tops.
Mm,
I was on like stair 4 by the time they were done,
done. Yeah.
and it took me a long time, and they had me up on the jumbotron,
The old
and
one.
so yeah, the old one, and that was hard, but it took a lot to do, because it was like 176 stairs, I think it was.
Got it.
And I climbed up there, and I got to the top, and I was beat, but I was like, man, if I can do this, then I can inspire one person to
Absolutely.
realize that, hey, maybe my life ain't that bad. It's like,
Right.
if this guy who's in a wheelchair and, can beat addiction and can climb upstairs and, try and, inspire them to realize that, we go through things in life. You just can't let
Absolutely.
them be a roadblock. It's only roadblock is death. Everything
Exactly.
else is a speed bump.
Everything
So
else you get to fight. Fortunately, we are blessed to be able to fight through it every day. So no,
yeah,
that's and given your and given like you're saying mental health and depression is very important to me. I suffer from depression as well. So
okay.
obviously some days are better than others, right? It's always a constant fight. So we're always making those decisions. But
So
like
you must have felt like I did during like COVID, like if you ever go in a puppy store and you see those like puppies that are in the glass window, and they look all adorable, but then you take them home and they're just assholes. That's what we are, locked up.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, they're so fantastic. Yes, you don't have to live with us.
Yeah, right, right.
That's
Yeah,
always the
my
thing.
fiance loved my comedy for about 3 months, and I'm just kidding. Um, yeah,
Exactly. No, but that's another thing, right? Is like I think that's part of, now that that we're obviously that we're, just again, we know each other, we get to be call each other
mhm,
friends and so forth. That's definitely something that I think is something that we get to do is share our experiences, but also enable those out there, inspire those, or even just give someone an out, right, to be
mhm.
able to talk about that. But that
And
is
that's why I tried so like. I mean, that's why I kind of looked at it like, how can I help people,
right.
And when it came to like tweeting players during this stuff,
Hmm.
it's just like, hey man, I know like you're banking on football a lot more than I am,
Right.
because I
Right.
mean this is your future, so I get it, you're gonna be down,
Hmm.
and the uncertainty for something you've been training for your entire life. I mean, that's like me training to do the Rocky stairs and go and they're gone. They're not
Right.
there anymore. It's like, well, I put in all that work. What am I
Hmm.
gonna do now?
Exactly.
But it's kind of like telling them, like, hey, you know what? Like, let me try and make you laugh.
Hmm.
Let me try and like help you or help other people or speak to AA meetings or
Absolutely.
stuff like that. Is just because it is. It never gets addressed, and comics are the worst. I mean, you took away our drugs.
And that's
Being on
always the thing.
stage is a drug.
Absolutely. Being on stage is the thing, right? Because that's actually fascinating you shared that, right? Because one thing you said, it's like how you got into comedy is like I hate my life. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what I've always admired comedians. I've always read and studied them. But I mean it's always almost kind of the common thread, right? It's just like, you know what? I'm dealing with whatever's going on and I'm gonna make people laugh because like you said you can get that fix from
Yeah,
being on stage, but also you're shed how did someone put it, you're shedding light on the hidden truth, whether it
right.
be political or emotional or mental health or whatever else it is. You're able to do that as well.
I think it was really hard for a lot of comics, I think, because um now it was kind of turning into a shift of what can I say, what
Mm,
can I say kind of thing, because it didn't matter. I mean, you had friends, and if you post about mask or no mask, somebody gets mad. If you post about anything
okay.
political, somebody's getting mad. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, all right, where are the boundaries, But me,
Right.
it's like I'm just me,
Hmm.
and I might push the line, I might push the boundaries. I just but I try and be real,
Of
like
course.
I want people to see me just for being honest and open,
Right.
and and it it was hard. I mean, now we're locked up trying to find excuses not to play with the kids, or I'm running out, you
Right,
know
exactly.
and
I
we're
think
homeschooling, and
and you're doing everything out
I
that
don't you can't have a comedian homeschool, you know I had my stepson, he turned in his history paper and it said, who is Abraham Lincoln, and he wrote a vampire slayer, and I was like, it's a historical fact,
exactly.
plus five. So
In
I
some
mean,
dimension it is.
yeah,
Exactly.
we would always make the kids like when they get in trouble, we make them sit outside the bedroom door, and then like I'd go in and like change my clothes, and then have them come in and be like, "So, why are you in the principal's office today? Tell me what Yeah, you just try to make things fun for the kids, but
Exactly. And I think that works out. Does that work out? Because I know that you congratulations. I mean, even though your youngest is 3 years old, congratulations
mhm,
on that one too.
thank you.
Because
It
again,
works, ladies. I'm just joking.
but I'm just since we just met, I'm saying congratulations, 3 years
Thank you.
here. But again, with your older kids, are they okay with you dressing up as a principal and you bring it, or they're like,
No,
no, it's always the younger
no,
ones.
no. It's the younger ones.
Yeah, the older
Like
ones are like, meh.
now you got to schedule a Zoom meeting with them. It's from the
Exactly.
other room.
Or
I
yeah,
laughed. I laughed so hard. I think the funniest thing that ever happened to me during COVID was when it first started and they locked down everything and the
right.
clubs were closed, and guys were starting to do like Skype Zoom mics, and where you
Oh, right.
put in, and I mean they were so bad, like so bad. And it was like I'd be telling a joke, and then I'd say the punchline, and then I'd start talking about the next joke, and then somebody would be laughing from the
Right.
first joke, and it was just like, this is ridiculous.
Such a wicked delay.
Yeah.
Such a wicked
And
delay.
I said, I said, I know my comedy career's failed. I can't even get my own fiance to log into a Zoom open mic from the other room to support me. And
That's fun.
no,
But
but they do. I it was weird. Like when I first started dating her, like I think the oldest was he would always get a little upset when people would recognize me. I mean, he wouldn't get. It was just like
my
kind of
teenagers get
embarrassing for
furious
him.
at that too. They
Yeah,
hate it when
yeah,
they recognize me. They're like,
yeah.
ugh.
You know, I mean, I only had like the whole Cracker Barrel kitchen come out and take a picture with me one time. I don't know how that'd be embarrassing.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Come on. Although I will take this back. My girls hate it, but my son just eats it up. He's like, this is cool. So
Yeah,
I guess it depends on who it is and their age,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
with your comedy, are you one of the things that are you always writing or just annotating possible jokes or anything else like that? Like, what's your
You,
process?
you know, to be honest with you, I don't write as much as I should, and I'm kind of, you know, eh, and just being transparent, I'm kind of um
Fair?
like down I I had all this time and I didn't I think I wasted more time than I did like during COVID. I should have been writing a lot more,
Hmm.
but I always try and find humor in something,
Okay.
but a lot of the things that I write material about are situational,
Hmm.
like talking back and forth like we are like improving and things like that I love doing.
Cool.
um but for me, I've never been like a Jerry Seinfeld where he just sits down with a pad of paper and writes.
Got it.
Me, I think of stories or things that have happened in the
Hmm.
past or things that I see in my
Right.
everyday life, and I try and twist them to make them funny. I My hardest thing is because I'm on stage and I get rolled out there and people are like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, is
Right.
this like a telethon or something? Like, I thought I was gonna see Pablo Francisco or Russell Peters. And um, so I always have to do something to get them on my side to make them feel like it's okay,
Cool.
to laugh because
Of
my
course.
material's edgy. It's not,
Right.
and so I go out there and I act mentally disabled. And I do that for about three, four, five jokes. And then I tell them I'm not.
Right.
And I don't do it to make fun of other,
Of
disabled
course.
people. I do it because you don't see the looks on these people's faces when I do it. It's hilarious.
Right. Of
It really
course.
is because they're just like
I
it's,
mean, that just
you
must be,
know,
like you said, it must be intoxicating when you're on stage. Not only being on stage, but just seeing that look must be amazing.
just knowing that I have them, and I'm about to ruin their night, and I'm about to make it get real awkward.
Right.
But that's just me. I like making things awkward. I mean, awkward is funny to me.
Absolutely. And Wes Franco, producer Wes, is out. He just had a question. Did working? You just mentioned him, Pablo Francisco,
Hmm.
working, and he was asking, have you talked about, if you could share, your time working with Pablo Francisco?
Yeah, absolutely. So Pablo, I knew about him when I started. I knew he came from like near that town down south,
Mm,
and he would come up to Acme. It used to be across from the Improv,
right.
and they would do like open mics and things like that. But
And the
then his
Improv is in
career,
Tempe, right at the
correct,
Cornerstone or where that
right?
was. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
by the sushi joint.
Yep.
And so he would come every year, and I was just starting, but I knew who he was, and he was starting to really blow up.
Hmm.
And then one night I was at an ASU game, and he was performing at the Improv. And while my parents would pick up the seat cushions after the games, I would wheel to the Improv.
Oh, okay.
And so because I knew the staff, I mean, I would get to meet whoever was there,
Right.
and met some really famous people. It was kind of cool. And so one night, Pablo was just finishing a show and he was standing outside. And I rolled up to him and I was like, "Hey, Pablo, I'm Short Bus. Nice to meet you." And he kind of laughed about my name. And then he's like, "Next time I'm in town, come and I'll get you a guest spot." And I was
Right
like,
on.
"Cool." So a couple years went by and he was at Stand Up Live, the one downtown now
Okay.
in Cityscape. And he uh, his feature, which is the middle act, remembered me, and he was like, "Oh, hey man, we met you last time." I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, and he said, "Why don't you come in the green room and see Pablo?" I was like, "Really?" I was still really new,
Right on.
and so I went in there, and he's like, "Hey, you're going up tonight," and I was like, "Okay." So I went up, and then he's like, "You're coming back and doing every show." So I did the entire weekend with him.
That's cool.
And so then he would start coming back every 6 months, and he would let me open for him, and then he'd
That's
start
cool.
using me in Vegas, and he'd start using me in California and Texas. And so he's
That's
an
awesome.
amazing guy, great guy.
Is he still is he still down? He came up through Tucson. Did he was he born and raised in Tucson, or where does he live now, or how did that work?
He's in LA now.
Okay.
He's been in LA for a long time, but I think I want to say it was not Sierra Vista. It's somewhere down near Marana,
Oh, okay.
down in that area.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't like going down that far, so I don't know.
I don't blame you. Have you performed down? Have you done anything down there?
I have.
Okay.
I did laughs, and I wore an
Oh, yeah.
ASU hat. I
Oh,
wore an
that must
ASU
have been
hat,
fun.
and I got on stage, and I looked at him, and I said, I know you're gonna judge me for my hat, but this town is full of shit. And then they were getting mad at me, and I go, but I'm gonna tell you why. I can tell you why. I've been wheeling up and down Miracle Mile for 3 hours, and the only thing I got was smelling like failure. I was just ripping on their town, and then they just kind of all laughed. And,
Right. They got into it.
Yeah, I haven't been back since.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay.
I only go back to visit my parents because they're still down there.
Yeah.
So I have no choice. I have no choice. We're coming up, and I haven't even asked you 2 questions from If You Had To. I got 2 cards, and this is the party game here. And I'll actually got another card from I Wish I Didn't Know. First one, relive the same day over and over, or B, things randomly explode when you touch them. Which one would you rather do?
Dude, exploding.
That's not bad though. But you know what it is? I thought about it too. It's like, man, that's almost like Midas, right? It's like you touch someone, and someone you don't mean to touch.
Yeah, but I think it would be cool. Like I could blow up stairs, and those scooters that ASU students leave around town on the sidewalks when you're
those freaking
handicapped and
birds!
you can't walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God they got rid of those. Like I don't see you. You don't see me leaving my empty wheelchairs outside your dorm rooms, guys. Come on. Like,
I do it. Yeah.
but yeah, that's a good question. But then I'd want to be like a villain and go and like touch. Oh, but then I can't touch money. Oh man, that would suck.
Well, no, because then you're just threatening them. You must electronically transfer $12 billion.
Or I'll blow up your Tesla.
Exactly. All right.
A good one.
Yeah, so that might work out well. So I got another. I wish I didn't know. So I'm going to read you a question, and there are 4 answers. Of these 4 answers, only one is correct.
Okay.
The chances of getting away with murder are one of these 4 percentages.
Okay.
25%, 40%, 10%, or 20%.
40% if you're Carol Baskin. Would you say it was 40, 20, and 10?
25. A is 25, B is 40, C is 10, and D is 20.
How old's this game?
Copyright 2020.
Okay. So I'm going to go with the lowest one.
10%.
Yeah.
You were right the first time. It's the Carol Baskin answer. 40%. I mean, it's not 50. I mean, it's still.
How do you get it? How's that 40% get away with murder?
I don't know. It's like who?
Like with DNA and.
Well, I mean, like how in the hell? I mean, how did they figure out that the other 60%? Right? It's like, hey,
yeah. Hey, you willing to take a poll?
Yeah.
That's like going to the store and they're like, hey, can you take a poll for Family Feud?
Yeah.
It's like
2 things.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how many times have you gotten away with murder?
Yeah, 2 things. Could you sign this, Prop 16, and have you gotten away with murder?
Right. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I got another one for you. I wish I did know. O.J. Simpson Now
Okay.
you know this one is going right. O.J. Simpson almost got the lead role in this movie, but the actor passed over him because he thought he was too pleasant. A. Rambo, B. Friday the 13th, C. Terminator, or D. The Fast and the Furious. Let's throw D right out because that's too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I vaguely remember hearing this. Would you say it was? I'm gonna say
So
what
it's
was it? Terminator, Rambo.
A. Rambo,
Yeah.
B. Friday the 13th, or C. Terminator.
I'm gonna say Terminator.
You're right, because I remember
Yes.
hearing this one as well. It was Terminator. I'm like, I don't know what it was, but clearly,
It would have been great. Like he would have been like, "I'll be back," and like put a glove on.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, like
It's
puts his
like
gloves
just
on and
ruined the whole franchise. I mean, I guess
right.
it's like you can't watch the Naked Gun game, the Naked Gun. Thankfully, he didn't make it in Airplane, right? So
Oh, greatest movie.
that's so good. I love that one. So I got another one here. Okay, I got
Okay.
two more from this game. One, let each of your friends choose a tattoo to put anywhere on you. Or B, get unexpectedly beaten with a stale baguette by an Italian grandma.
Oh man, I have a lot of weird friends. Like, and I can't even imagine. I mean, the problem is for me, I already know where they'd put it. They'd put it on my face because that's like the only thing you can see of me is my face. So it'd probably be like a neck tattoo that says
Right.
like "sweetie" or something weird. Like, it'd be the handicap parking sign on my forehead or something. Um, I'd take the baguette.
Yeah, the
I
baguette's not
like
that
old
bad.
Italian ladies, because she'd probably like beat me and then she'd like make me dinner,
Dude, she would
call.
feed the hell out of you, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like, man, that
exactly.
would be a feast. Because the second one, right? Let your friends choose a tattoo. I'm always harking back to that one movie, 10 Things I Hate About You, where they draw the penis on his
Mm,
face. I'm like,
yep.
that's exactly what it would end up being. It
Yeah,
would be a freaking,
I know what they would do.
it would be
I know.
totally,
Yeah.
yeah. You are correct, Paul. It was gonna be O.J. Simpson instead of the Governor, which would have been that would have changed the course of history. I think if
I don't think there would have been a number two.
no,
I think Terminator would have got terminated after one.
oh that would have been, and that's the interesting. Was
Because who
Terminator?
do you replace him with?
Well, Terminator T2 came out what year? 92. Was that?
I'm
That
gonna look
was
this up.
yeah. Look that one up because the only reason I'll say that the only reason I'm thinking that is because the movie came out before the murders. That's all I'm saying.
91.
And so then when he got written, so when he got, it was like 94, 95, I think, is when he got.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I think he would have had a second one. But it's always.
That would have been comedy gold though. I mean, from the comedian aspect of it, you have the guy who's Terminator and then does all that stuff
Oh,
and
you
like,
ride that horse till it
you
dies.
exactly. That would have gotten, that would have.
That still would have been relevant. I mean, you could have ridden that all the and in all the permutations and the versions and all this. I mean, it would have been a brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant
yeah.
punchline.
Can't
So
get much better than that. I mean, it's like here's a
exactly.
tee. Hit the ball. Probably miss.
Exactly. Well, I did have I want absolutely. I want to. So I still want to talk about some of your comedy, right? Because it seems like
Hmm.
you've done a lot of touring, right? So I
Yep.
mean, who was your? How do I word this one? I want to. So who is the who is so obviously you have a very good relationship with Pablo Francisco and with
Hmm.
Russell Peters, but outside of them, who is your most favorite comedian to work with, and who is your least favorite comedian to work with? And
Oh,
if you don't feel comfortable naming them, you can just
killing
describe
me.
why.
They're killing me. Um, I would say my favorite comedian to work with, other than those two, is Josh Wolf
Okay,
from Chelsea Lately, and he's got a show on YouTube called High Times,
right.
and he's one of those guys that when I was going through all the addiction and stuff
Mhm.
like that, like he was one of the guys that like reached out to me and made sure I was okay and stuff
Right
like
on.
that, or we'd talk. And but his comedy is hilarious. I mean, I could sit there and watch his stuff over and over again, which is for me. I don't want to say I'm jaded, but I don't really like doing my set and then watching somebody else unless it's like a really good friend. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Um,
So if it's someone you don't know, you won't watch?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I mean, I'll watch them. I mean, if they're like celebrities.
Fair.
Um, Least favorite,
You don't have to name them, but you can describe why. How's that?
well, I saw Michael Richards go off before he got in trouble at the Comedy
Oh,
Store.
got it.
You know, it was a week before he did that. He was
Before
going
he
off
cracked.
on,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Where was that?
I
Where were you?
I was at the Hollywood Improv.
Okay.
Yeah, and he just kind of got upset at some fans, and I mean, he
Mm,
didn't say that word, but I mean, you could just tell like something was going on, and God bless him. I hope he's okay, still. But
right.
you know, I don't. I mean,
It's interesting that you don't watch someone else. Obviously, then if they're a celebrity or you know them, but I mean, that's just like you're done. It almost feels like it's like, ooh, I got to unwind after my own set. I would guess, right?
yeah, you get that because you're going on straight adrenaline,
Right.
and then you get off stage, and then you're just like, man, that was awesome, and then 2 minutes later you crash, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, did I do okay? And then you're asking your friends, did you like that new joke? Did you like this? Did you like that? Like, should I do this differently?
See, that must
Should
be cool, though. That must be an amazing camaraderie where you can bounce questions off like that and say you get feedback and this and that.
Yeah, I mean, if something I always did was I always surrounded myself around comics that I knew were like in it. It
Mhm.
wasn't just a hobby, like, and they were talented.
Cool.
I think the only way you can get better is to surround yourself around better people.
Hmm.
And that helps you because, you might have an idea, and if you run it by like a brand new comic, they might not really have like that, like, and nothing against them, but it's the more experienced comics are going to
Hmm.
be able to help you think of a quicker tagline or punchline,
Okay.
you know. So, um, so I got really blessed. Like I was around a lot of good local comics who were all already, on their way up and
Okay.
established in local like clubs, and so kind of surrounded myself with them because I'm competitive. I want to win.
Right. Of
And
course.
but it kind of got, with all the addiction stuff, and like I love doing comedy. I need to do more of it,
Hmm.
and I want to get out and do more of it, but
Right.
transportation's a lot, difficult. But I really want to kind of transition into comedy slash motivational speaking
Cool.
and help, kids or people who are, going through depression and,
Absolutely.
substance abuse. And so I think, I just turned 40, and it's like
Welcome to the 40s.
yeah, it's like I drank away my 20s. I don't remember my 30s, and now it's time to grow up and be 40,
Right.
So so I want to make a difference before I leave.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
40s are a good time to do that, right? Because 40s you care even less, right? And it's like I'm closer to approaching 50 than I am on the 40 side. But
Mhm.
like I remember reading that it's like in the 40s you don't care as much about other people's opinion, but you're like you said, like you're doing right now, you're looking more inward, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to do and be able to impact that?
How could you not look inward being locked down? I mean, I was watching like Ancient Aliens. I was like looking up stuff on reincarnation. I was like watching all these shows, just like, and it's like, wow. I didn't doomsday scroll. I didn't doom scroll.
Yeah, see, I was guilty
But
of that. But you know what it was like you. I've read more this pandemic than I've had in my entire life. I
mhm,
mean, I've just like been reading stuff and self-health. I've always journaled, but I'm journaling more, so I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool to disconnect. And like even when I was talking with Ralph Amsden,
mhm.
right? He's like, so what are you all gonna do now that the pandemic has canceled football? I'm like, I think I'm gonna start scrapbooking. Because I
I
used
want to
to a long
knit.
time
I
ago,
want to
but I'm like, oh, I'll
crochet.
figure something out. But question from PJ in the chat, right? He
Yeah.
says, do you know Nate Bargatze or Kyle Kinane? Hopefully I'm saying their names right.
I do know of them, but I honestly I haven't met them.
Okay.
You know, I I would go out to LA and do some shows with some guys every now and then,
Mm-hmm.
but mainly because it was always hard for me to travel with those guys because, you know, there was a lot of headliners that were like, yeah, you're really funny, you know, but then it's like, now we got to pay for your airfare and your friend's airfare,
Mm,
you know, and then at that time I was partying too much and, you know, so
okay.
I wasn't, you know, I don't know if they could really trust me, you know,
Gotcha.
and so I didn't get out. But I do know of the guys, very very funny guys, but
Right.
I haven't met them. No,
Question, and then
someday.
PJ had another follow up question for you. Anyone you didn't care for that was hilarious, that was hilarious in person. And so PJ mentioned Sinbad, right? Again, I
Yeah,
guess he was hilarious, but it's like, from a personality perspective, I guess they just
really, he was a great guy. Sinbad was great. I
maybe PJ
remember.
got him on the wrong day. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember I used to have a service dog, and I remember going to a show in Sinbad. He was there, and I'd never met him. And he walked out in between shows and pulled up a chair and sat down next to me
Right on.
and just talked to me and just pet my dog for like an hour. It was great. It was crazy.
Well,
Um,
I
but
loved his thing. He did it in Atlanta, one of his first gigs, and it was, I think, one of his first specials. And I had it on, I have it on, my parents still have it on VHS, so
mm,
I watched the hell out of it. So that's good to hear.
yeah, I I I don't know. Like I was trying to think of somebody I've had like a bad experience with, and a lot of the comics I really haven't. The only thing that pops in my head is just Kevin Pollak.
Mm,
But he just, you know, I open for him, and you know,
right,
usually at the end of the weekend, like guys will be like, "Hey, great working with you," you know,
right.
and it with him it was just kind of like he walked out and was just like later, and so I didn't know if I like
Mm,
did something or made him mad or whatever. But that's really the only bad experience. I mean, there's gonna be comics like, but nobody like notable, you know, or name worthy
right.
to that I've had, you know.
Now, are there any young comedians that you enjoy? Like, is there anyone you would like? Oh, you have to. This guy hasn't making out. This guy hasn't, or this comedian, male or female, hasn't broken out yet. But I love their style. Who is that? And it's okay if you don't. I just wasn't curious. I was just
No,
curious.
I know, but there's so many that
Okay.
like I think um Dustin Ibarra.
Okay.
Dustin Ibarra. He's absolutely he's I mean he's been in like was the Zoo movie with Ben Affleck, or not Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. We Bought a Zoo.
Oh yeah.
He's
Okay.
the guy with kind of like the crazier hair. But he was somebody that I recently worked with, and again, normally I don't like sit and watch comics that much, but I literally sat there and watched everything he said, and it was hilarious. But him, a guy named Sandy Danto, is really funny. There's a lot of good guys that,
Okay.
you know.
That's cool. That's very nice. So that's like I said. I absolutely love it. I even bought a book, and I wish I could find it. It was called How to Be Funny. It was written by one of Jay Leno's writers. So
Hmm.
it's older, right?
Hmm.
But it's just all the different styles, right? The doing it in threes, or
Hmm.
the turn, or all this other stuff. So it's always fascinated me. But I like the way you describe it, right? I enjoy being situational, right? Because then you for me it's easier to kind of tap into, oh, if someone says something, then I can kind of recall something earlier, instead of like, where someone just
Are
paint.
you are you thinking about doing comedy?
See, that's the thing. I'm trying to
You're
actually.
reading it. I see it.
I do,
I've had
but it
this
would be,
conversation a lot.
but it
I
would be
see
more
it.
for the. It would be more for the show. I think one of the thing for this, in this context, for me, I
Mm,
don't think I would get out on stage, but I think I would like to know it for Padawan too. I would like to know it for my son. So in this way, if I have it in the back of my brain, I
mm.
can kind of share it with him. And being, us having a contact, having him call you or talk with you if he ever has questions, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really where I come from it, but also being able to bring more value and make the show even that much more entertaining.
Take improv then. You don't need
Okay.
to improv classes are because improv's situational. Improv is you know, answering a question with a question. It's fast. It's
Right.
back and forth off the top of your head, and that's the things that, will for what you're saying you want to do. Yeah, do improv,
Okay.
Stand up's a different animal,
I
I
can only
mean,
imagine.
stand up, it's like I always say it's like sex because the first time you do it, you don't know what you're doing, and
And it's a mess.
you're gonna end too quickly, you know. So you're supposed to do 5 minutes and you only do like one, and then you're out,
You're
and
just
then
like, it's
you
like,
know,
and they push you back
but
out. No, you gotta keep going.
yeah, but you kind of enjoyed it,
Right.
and you're like, this isn't that bad, I want to keep trying it.
And then 2
So
minutes in,
you
you're
just
falling
keep,
asleep.
yeah, you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and then
Right.
you're like, like I like other stuff too, so maybe I'll, try a different stage and
Right.
meet a different girl who's a little more demanding, or just like one that wants to tie me up. I don't
Right.
know.
Something.
But after a while, you keep doing it and doing it, then you're like, I'm getting pretty good at this,
That's cool.
But you have to be able to fail. If you can't handle failure, and because I don't think there's a comedian in the world who's
Right.
never bombed, if you can't handle that, and that's hard for me because I need that. It's for me. It's like I need that social kind of gratification,
Mm.
right? So like when I tweet something that I think's really funny and like no one likes it, I'm
Oh,
like,
that's the worst.
damn,
Oh,
and
that's so
then
defeating.
yeah, and then like I'll tweet something and it'll be edgy, and then I'll be like, oh shit, I lost a follower, and then I was like, why am I worried about
Right.
people I've never even met, who's probably some like 7-year-old,
Exactly.
writing angry YouTube comments, about like, and then
Exactly.
having to go, you know, but yeah, do improv. You'd be good at
Okay, I'll
improv.
give it. Thank you. And so,
Yeah.
to that end, right? You were
Mhm.
talking about being in state. Have you ever been heckled?
Yes, many times.
How's that
Many
like?
times.
Okay, like give us your best and worst. Like, what's the best heckle you've gotten?
Um,
Or are they just like garbage and you just want to slap them down?
a lot of them, I mean, all of them are just drunk people,
Okay.
and so I usually hit them, and try and get them to shut up right away because a lot of times I'm not the headliner. And
Oh,
so I don't
gotcha.
want to go at the crowd
Of
because
course.
then they feel that gives them the invitation to talk,
That's
to the
fair.
headliner. So like trying to hit them with something like, usually I'll just be like, are you heckling me right now? Like, who heckles a handicapped guy? Do you go to the Special Olympics and yell boo, you're running too slow? You know, or
Right.
it's like you only threw the javelin 5 feet. Like, come on, like who does that? And that
Right.
usually gets them. That usually gets
That's
them.
cool.
But the women are the worst. Women hecklers are the worst.
It
Like
really.
drunk guys, like you can shut up pretty quick.
Okay.
But it's the female hecklers that just want to keep going and going and going because they think they're right, and they don't even know where they
Oh.
are at the time, and it's sad. Sometimes it's sad. Sometimes I feel bad. Sometimes if I go at a heckler too hard, I think the audience turns sometimes.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Like, I think it was like, okay, it was funny the first time, but like, damn, now you're really laying into this person,
Yeah.
So some guys are great with hecklers. I mean, some guys, that's all they want are hecklers, but it's just not kind of my style
Okay.
or the kind of the things
Fair.
that, but it's fun. It's fun making a woman cry walking out because she flipped you off,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And she's it's
It's like,
like, and she's just like, but I'm trying to prove my point and all this other stuff.
yeah, yeah. And it's like there is no point, man. The point is you're drunk and you're ruining my make a wish.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
the
I'm just.
point is.
What's your longest set, by the way?
I've done an hour.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I shouldn't have. I wasn't ready, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is great. Can I tell a
Yeah,
story really
please.
quick?
Hell yeah. I want
Okay,
to hear this.
so
Oh, by
there's
the
a
way, Wes, you had a question. Where'd you find that? This is what I'll need to do moment. Could you reword that one? Go ahead. So an hour set.
yeah. So there's a handicapped guy, comic, great guy, really funny. His name's Josh Blue. You ever
Okay.
heard of him? He's
No.
got cerebral palsy. Okay,
Okay.
he won Last Comic Standing.
Oh,
Like,
yes. Thank you.
yeah, like year 3.
Yep.
Like, just murdered it. And so it was I thought it was like the greatest thing that was going to happen, because I actually auditioned that same year, and they were just kind of like, well, we already got Josh, and
Mm.
he was more established. Like, I was super young. I
Okay.
was maybe like 2 years in at the time, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so he won Last Comic Standing, so his price went up, you know. So what would happen is colleges would Google like disabled comedian, and for like their disability weeks, right? And then
Mhm.
they'd bring in a comedian and have like a big show for all the students.
Right.
And so I got hit up by the University of Minnesota,
Okay.
and they asked me to come and perform, and I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I go, how much you gonna pay me? And they go, 2 grand plus airfare. And I was like, okay, cool, how much time am I doing? And they're like, an hour. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
I think I can do it. I think I can do it, right? So I'm like, sure, no problem, right? And go and do it. Somehow I did it. I dragged it out. It must have been brutal. It must have been like actually watching a Minnesota football game before they were good. You know, like just sitting there, like,
Just like,
is this gonna end, right?
it's only the
So
third quarter.
yeah, and so the cool thing was is my cousin lived there, and he picked me up, and I stayed at his place.
Okay.
And on the way back to his place, I go, man, they're never gonna book me again. I go, they're never gonna book me again.
Right.
So sure enough, a year later, I get a call. It's them again, and they go, hey, we want you to come back. I'm like, really? And they go, but it's gonna be a little different. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm thinking there's.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, they had a blind magician open for me, and the guy killed his bird and didn't know it. Like,
Oh,
he opened the
God.
box and it fell off. Like, I even started laughing, and then his like assistant guy was like, no, that's not good. Like, he needed
Oh,
the
my
bird for
God.
another trick. And I was like, this isn't good. So it goes, it's gonna be a
Oh.
little different. So I'm like, who are they gonna have? Like, like Oompa Loompas, like carrying me out on like a stretcher or something. And so they go, no, we're gonna have you do comedy, but then we want you to be the MC for Gophers Got Talent. They're like version of America's
Yeah,
Got
of
Talent.
course.
I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, how much comedy they? I go, how much you gonna pay me? This is
Yeah.
my first thing. They go, 2 grand. I go, how much time do I got to do? And they go, 20 minutes. And I go, I'll see you
Done.
fucking there. I was like, I'm on my way. Hell yeah. And I went and I did it. I did my 20 minutes. There was only 4 contestants. The thing was over in 15 minutes.
Oh,
I took
man.
my money and I left. And they
Exactly.
haven't booked me since. That's,
Thank you, Golden
yes,
Gophers.
yes, thank you.
What time of year was it? Hopefully it was a
Oh,
reasonable
it
time of
was
year.
worst part of the year every
No.
time. Both times I missed my flight because the airport was frozen over. And I was just like, are you guys going to move this? Because I can't get out of Phoenix,
Yeah,
to get
exactly.
to you guys. But they always flew me in the morning and then flew out the next day. But it was, yeah. So that's, two
That's
grand.
a but
I'll be there.
but an hour, that just must be, I can only imagine, because you're always talking about, when you even watch the specials, there's stories and everything else, but I mean, it just must be exhausting to do an
It is.
hour.
I think you have to have the crowd from beginning to end, because if you get them going the first time, then it keeps them laughing,
Yeah.
and it keeps them into it.
Okay.
The hard part is sometimes when you tell like super long stories, if you're not mixing in humor, sometimes they start getting drunk, and they start getting bored, and and stuff like that.
The only person I knew that could do that is Kevin Smith. He can turn
Yeah.
one story into like, 30, 40, 50 minutes, and it's just like,
Yeah.
this is the same joke.
Right, right, exactly. It's kind of like it just keeps setting up, and it just
Right.
keeps going and going and going for like, and that's genius. That's genius writing. So, but yeah, I don't. Hours are tough. I usually when I feature, I maybe do like 25, 30.
Okay.
So I mean, I feel after 15 years, I feel like I can hold that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the best club you've been in? It's like, or actually, take it back. What's the best club? But then, what's your favorite club? Unless they're too different. Unless they're the same.
So my favorite club was a club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a really cool club.
What was it?
Um,
What
it was called Comedy on the Beach.
okay.
No, it was Carolinas. I'll look it. I'll find it.
Right.
I'm blanking right now. I'm sorry.
That's all good.
Um, but I love that club and it was so much fun and the people there were awesome and
Cool.
just everyone would like hang out and have a good time and the owners were really cool. They actually invited me and my buddy back for their wedding and then
Ah.
we went and did like comedy. We did radio every morning with kind of like their version of John Holmberg, out there
Okay.
in Myrtle Beach and it's Stand Up Carolina. That's what it was,
There you
Stand Up
go.
Carolina. So that was the first place they put my name on the marquee.
Oh,
You know,
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. So that was awesome. So that's kind of always and also the same place that put my picture on the wall too.
All right
Yeah,
on.
yeah. They're closed now,
Oh.
but
Oh,
whatever.
you were on the marquee
Yeah,
and
I
on the
was
wall.
there and on the wall,
That's
and but it was probably like the most memorable kind of like
right.
sweet kind of like making it. But I love performing in Vegas.
Okay.
I perform at the South Point with Pablo a lot, and
Gotcha.
so I love performing there. But Tempe Improv is my home club.
That's the
Love
one.
it. Always. It's
And
my
everyone's
favorite
coming
club
in.
from beginning to end. I've had all my greatest memories of Tempe Improv and the one in Stand Up Carolina or Stand Up Live downtown. Um, yeah,
Very nice.
it's great. Long time, long memories.
That is cool. And I mean, it's just,
A lot of memories
did you ever establish status with all the travel you were doing?
in terms of
Travel at like
like
United points or
no,
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 none of
no.
that.
I didn't. I was doing a lot more local shows
Okay.
than anything. Arizona's great for local, like getting started in local
Mm-hmm.
comedy because, the California clubs, you might wait, you throw your name in a bucket, and if you get picked, you might get to do 2 minutes,
Wow.
and then some people have shows where you can do longer. But
Mm-hmm.
in Phoenix, I mean, the scene is growing so big. And then, you're seeing more and more open mics and more
Right.
little clubs opening up where you're able to do 10 minutes,
That's cool.
7 to 10 minutes, which is great. It's a great place to really work out your stuff. And so I just stayed home. And
Right
the
on.
cool thing was that I made so many friends that they would all come in to perform at the improv. So I was constantly getting work, because
Right
my
on.
friends would come in. So
Because they knew what you were doing.
yeah.
And you were saying comedians is the other thing. They're very highly competitive. Have you had
Yes.
anyone steal your jokes?
Um, Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
There's
had I had one. I don't know if he did it intentionally, but I called
okay.
him out on it. You know, it was just a a joke about you know being disabled doesn't mean I know every other disabled person.
Mm,
Like I don't know Bob in Florida, because he's in a wheelchair and stuff like that.
right
And
on.
then somebody kind of took it, and so I called them out on it, and they didn't use it ever again.
Got it.
But
Okay, so you're
you
able
know
to.
I don't know. My material's so weird unless you're in a wheelchair with
Okay.
crooked hands and ET fingers, you're not gonna be able to really
You're not going to
steal
be
my
able to lift much.
material. You might be able to take a premise, but
Right.
yeah, unless, unless you're getting so drunk you left your chair at the club the next day, it's not gonna happen.
Right, exactly. Well, Wes Franco on the in the chat, he said Pablo was a strong influence on him.
Yeah.
He worked the HBO special with George Lopez, which he actually shared a story about on the previous Sun Devil Summit. But Wes continues to say it was an amazing experience, with Pablo, even though Wes was just a PA. It
Mhm.
seems that Pablo was a very good influence on Wes. So sounds like he's very
Pablo,
grateful for that.
I would say probably the three guys that always come to the top of my head of guys who are just genuine good people. And sure, all of them had their have had their troubles and
Of
things
course.
like that, but we all have, our Pablo Francisco, Russell Peters was the first guy who ever let me open for him, you know,
Damn,
and
that's cool.
and I didn't even know who he was. Like I didn't
Was
know.
he
I
big
was
or was he still sort of coming
Oh,
up at that time?
he
He
was
was really big at that
huge.
time.
Yeah,
Okay,
he just took off from YouTube,
got it.
and stuff like that, and he took off, and I was literally in the bathroom when I got the phone call, and it was, "Hey, you need to be at the club tonight. You're opening for Russell Peters." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I went to my computer. I'm like, "Who the fuck is Russell Peters? I don't know." And then I showed up, and I found out they had to add an extra show because he sold so many
Oh,
tickets,
got
and
it.
so but those two, and Pablo's the first one to really use me a lot on the road. He's helped me get wheelchairs. So is Russell. Russell's helped me a lot
That's
too.
cool.
But it's gone past comedy,
Hmm.
like it's Russell put me in his Netflix thing that he had, and then Pablo, um, you know, lets me help with some of his projects if it's coming up with ideas. I don't really work too much on the projects
Right.
themselves, but if it's like, hey, look at this, tell me what you think, kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
he's a great guy. And then Josh Wolf,
Okay.
always.
Brilliant. And you were saying the Russell Peters Netflix thing. What was that? What was your involvement?
I was just in. It was Russell Peters versus the world.
Okay.
It was kind of like how HBO does 24/7.
Right.
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those where they led up to him doing filming his special in Australia.
Okay.
And so he came to Phoenix and they recorded me.
Right on.
And I told a joke that probably get me in trouble today that's on there.
Mm,
But
thus is
oops.
being the
Oops.
comedian.
But
At
yeah,
least
so
you can
it's
do that.
Russell Peters versus the World
Right
episode
on.
3 when it comes to
So you're on
Phoenix.
IMDb then?
No.
No.
I got a credit, that's it,
Right.
Like if drinking was an IMDb,
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
We'd all be on that one. So
right,
yes.
right.
Ms. Emily Kruger, lovely to see you. She actually won a T-shirt from Die Hard Devils a couple weeks ago. So always
Nice.
lovely to see you here in the chat. Actually, it's good timing for you, Emily, because I know we were talking about this. I know you shared this on, and again, we're shifting to football because I want to get your thoughts on
Mhm.
football. But um, I'm dying to hear this story where you got in a fight and Pat Tillman, or it was a bar fight and Pat Tillman's involved. And again, I know there's a truncated version out there, but I want to be able to hear the whole smash. What do we got?
Sure, sure. Okay. So I was like just turned 21, right?
Okay.
And I the first time I went up to Flagstaff, I started working for the Cardinals when I was 20.
Okay.
And so I go up to Flagstaff, and then I was like, well, maybe it's not a good idea to try like sneak in the bars, like because they
Right.
know how old I am, and I don't want to get in trouble. And I just started, and so I'm like, all right, well next year I'll be 21. And so we went to Flag, and Luis Sendejas works
Oh,
there
right
at the
on.
time, right? Now, good old Luis decided he wanted to keep betting me money to drink double Jack and Cokes and rum and
Ah.
Cokes. And he was paying me like 20, $40 each time I did it. And so to this day, Zendejas, I will get you. Um, so he, so I was drinking way too much. I got like
Yeah.
sick. And the next day, I thought I was going to get fired because I
Okay.
threw up in the bar, and
Oh, right.
I lost my phone, and it was in someone's pocket. And I woke up, and the cabs came, and I thought the police were going to arrest me. And I was sitting outside on San Francisco Street, just like, ah,
Right.
So I the next night, I just like I felt like death, right? Like I just couldn't, like I
Absolutely.
couldn't drink, but my friends were still there, right? And I wanted them to feel like they were cool, hanging out with
Okay.
all the players in the bars. So we're in Maloney's. Yeah, Maloney's up there.
Up in Flag.
And
Okay.
is it Maloney's? Have you been to
That I
Flag?
don't know.
I
I've been
think
to
it's like
Flag, but I can't remember. It's been
I think
years.
it's like yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Maloney's.
Okay.
Or McDuffie's, one of the two. And so all of a sudden, we're sitting there and I'm kind of in my push wheelchair,
Mm-hmm.
so I can't really go anywhere. And my
Right.
buddies are like, "Hey, we're gonna go to the bathroom," so they left me,
Mm.
and the place is packed because everyone wanted to see the players, everyone wanted
Oh,
to hang out with
gotcha.
them, and so all of a sudden this fight breaks out, right? Like right in front of me, and it like people were pushing. Now my body, it's very brittle, right? Like
Okay.
I'm like Mr. Glass from the movies,
Right on.
like if my legs bend any more than a sitting position, they break.
Okay.
If I fall the wrong way, my arms break. Yeah.
Oh
So
man.
I've broken like 13 bones in my life, right?
Wow.
So
Okay.
when people are getting, and I can't raise my arms, so if
Yeah.
somebody's getting pushed, and they fall on me, I'm gonna get hurt, you
Something's gonna
know.
happen. Oh, okay.
So I'm leaning back like this, like, oh shit, like, cause like I could see people shoving, and
Absolutely.
then like out of nowhere, like a guardian fucking angel, these two arms come and like wrap around my chest, and I can feel like I'm being pulled back, like I'm getting pulled back, and I figured it was my buddy because they saw like
Right.
everything that was going on, so I figured they knew, so they reached around and grabbed, and and then I look up over my shoulder, and it's Pat Tillman. It's Pat fucking Tillman with Zach Waltz, because they were good friends
Right.
when they played together, and Pat's brother, and it was Pat's fiance at the time, and they were behind me, and so he pulls me back, and then his brother and Zach get in front of me,
Right.
and they just start pushing like people away from me
Okay.
to make sure, and they're yelling at him like, stop, 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 and Pat the entire time was just like this, and then he goes here, and he kind of like tucked me under, like, those high top, like the flat bars, where you just have a bar stool, and
Yeah.
it's like a high top
Yep.
one, but it's a long bar, I'm talking about. It's
Right.
not like a full table,
Of
but like
course.
yeah. um he kind of tucked me underneath it, right? Because I was in my wheelchair, and he kind of tucked me down underneath it and was standing in front of me, like protecting me. And then once the fight stopped, he turned around and was like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "All right, have a good night," and walked away. And I was like, and then my buddies come back and they're like, "Dude, are you okay?" I'm like, "Fucking Pat Tillman just saved my life, and you guys weren't here to see it. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the greatest thing to ever
Oh
happen to
my
me." I
God.
mean, and this was this was well after, he would um talk to me at the facility and everything. But then after that was when he was really like, "Hey, you need a ride. You need
Yeah.
a ride." And then it was kind of like, you know, but then, he went off and, you know,
Like
did
Superman, literally just this
just
blur, and then all of a sudden, then it's like, are you okay? And then it just flies away.
like, I don't really, I love that story. I don't like telling it a lot, just
Right.
because, just because the kind of person he was, because he didn't do that. So one day I could tell my
Of
friends
course.
that it saved me. And like, I mean, sure, I could have gotten hurt. It wasn't like
Right.
I was gonna die, but just the fact of he and Zach and his brother
Right.
put themselves in front of me, it's just kind of like, man, there's good fucking people in the world,
Absolutely.
there really is. And, you know, it's sad what happened, and,
Absolutely.
God bless them. And, I literally, one of the other things I was training for was I was gonna crawl the Pat Tillman run.
Oh wow.
I was going to do all 4.2 miles. I was actually in contact with them,
Hmm.
and they were going to let me start like a couple hours early,
Okay.
so that way I could finish. But I was going to crawl it. I was
Wow.
literally going to crawl it just to honor him for what he did for me.
That's
It was,
brilliant, man.
but all the car accidents and stuff like that, I couldn't do it. I want to do it someday.
I was gonna say, is there still there's still an opportunity to do it. It's just a matter of doing the
Yeah,
training, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I want to do it. I just, with all the COVID things, like I wanted to do the Brooklyn
Right.
Bridge next year, and then I also wanted to climb the Capitol stairs in
Hmm.
DC,
Right.
to raise awareness for like suicide
Of
prevention
course.
and depression and things like that. So I mean,
Right.
it's something I still want to do. hey, you know what, Herm, if you're watching, I'll come climb the stadium stairs again. You know,
We'll make sure that one happens. We'll actually make sure
yeah,
as the show grows, we're going to get
right,
lots of attention and
for
make sure
sure.
that it happens, right? So,
And I'm
I
glad you're up and going, by the way, because I know the last time I talked to you, like actually talked to you, I
right.
was like running a podcast idea by you, and you're like, my house is burning down, or I gotta move. And then I was like, oh
I feel
shit.
bad for that. Yeah, but it
Oh,
was
about that
craziness.
podcast. I'm
Well,
like,
I think we
my
said
kid, no, I was like, my kids make me watch Barbie. Can I come with you?
exactly. Yo, I feel horrible. Yeah, because we're gonna have to get talking to that again because now it's more fall. The fires are gone, and
Mm,
I can actually breathe the air, and there's no ash
good,
on my car. So
good.
yeah,
That's
so it's
scary.
been
That's
it's
scary.
not something. See, that's the thing too. It's not something I wish on someone, but I mean, we were talking about this. We were pre-gaming. I don't know if I can do 50, 60 some odd days of 110 plus.
That's
I mean, I don't know if I could do that, man.
why I love working from home. You know,
Right? Oh,
but it's funny. I have my Pat Summerall headset on. You know,
yes.
this is the one I use for like work too.
Like I told you,
And
you sound fantastic, man.
yeah, and I went outside and I was wearing this headset, and the neighborhood kid rode by and he looked at me. He was like, "Hey man, what game are you playing?" And I was
Ah,
like, "Oh man," I was like, "It's called responsibility. It sucks.
yeah,
Don't
exactly.
play it."
Yeah, like Paul Hornstein saying up there, getting old sucks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've realized that now too. Like, he just turning 40. I'm like, damn. Now I'm like the old stepdad. Like,
yeah,
I'm like in the bathroom playing Words with Friends,
yeah, exactly.
like, and reading Devil's Digest, and just trying to talk to ASU friends. Yeah,
Something to connect in some way or another.
something,
Exactly.
something.
Well, PJ out there, he's saying he absolutely wants you to attend the tailgate there. They're in lot 59 on the north side. So please, he's absolutely wanting you to come to the tailgate. So
Absolutely.
brilliant, brilliant tailgate. And again, his partner Adam Blumker is just a meat maven. So he's always barbecuing some amazing stuff. So
Can I party at that tailgate?
you would
It's
get
in the
looks if you're
north,
not.
huh?
You would get looks if you weren't. So yeah, you can absolutely party over there.
No, I was asking if I have. I'm trying to think. There's some pretty good tailgates out there.
There was a
You
lot of
know,
good tailgates
yeah, on
out
the
there.
north
Yeah,
side.
that's where
I
it always was.
remember I would go and before the games when I used to drink, I would go and hang out with like the old 96 AC guys.
They
You know,
always
like
tailgated on the
yeah,
north side,
yeah,
right?
right under the
Juan
Juan
had his thing.
Roque.
Yeah, he had all that
And
up
he'd
there.
always give me moonshine, and then I wouldn't remember the second quarter. It was awesome. It was good times.
That's always good. So yeah,
I
so
love and that's the one thing I loved about ASU fans too, is because I would just I'd wheel around, and people just were just like, hey, what are you doing? Like,
right,
come over, hang out. And I guess that's the other thing I loved about being a comedian, was because people recognize me and they're like,
right.
holy shit, it's Short Boss, come party with us, on my way.
Yeah, exactly. Say no more. See, the other thing
Yeah.
too with me is that um when I never put my face out there, right? And even
Mhm,
pictures or anything else, I was really key on being anonymous. And then
mhm,
eventually I started putting my face out there and everything else. But when I come back to Tempe, I'd always introduce myself using my real name, right? And they're like,
mhm.
"Oh, nice to meet you." But then again, then I'd kind of turn it on them, and it's like just like you trying to read the crowd. I'm like, "But you know me online as Jedi ASU," and they're like, Jedi, yeah. It's like
Yeah,
God. I'm
right?
like, and I'm like, yes, because I live for that reaction. That's exactly
Yeah.
what.
See, and that's why I had to change my Twitter, because it used to say Short Bus on there, but now I shortened it to SB, because then I'm like, well, maybe they don't want to retweet it because it says Short Bus. Like,
Well,
I was on a mission. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was on a mission. I had
okay.
like a mission of um not to like stalk, but like to get like certain people to like a tweet, or to retweet it, right? And it started with like, okay, Josh Christopher. All right, cool. He liked the
Right.
tweet. He retweeted it. And then Antonio Pierce. And then I'm like, I'm going to keep going. And
Kept
so
working up
then
the
I
ladder.
got Bobby Hurley on his birthday.
Right
And
on.
then, but Herm can't get him. And
Yeah.
Marvin Lewis Can't get him
I
either.
don't think they like. I mean, I
They
just
love their players, and I get it,
they do.
but
I
I'm
don't see
sure they
them
love
liking
the
a lot.
fans. I'm sure they love the
Exactly.
fans, but it's kind of like my goal, my mission in life is to get Herm Edwards to like a tweet, and I have, better. He probably tell me to check my priorities,
Tell us something to do. Exactly.
right?
Exactly. I have some questions for you, right? So
Yes.
the reason I have these is that it's separate from a game, but actually I don't know if you listen to Rob Lowe's podcast, literally. So he interviews it. I mean, who doesn't Rob Lowe know? So anyway, he had this one interview with um David Spade.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asked this question of David Spade, and it wound up, the answer wound up being that ended up, David Spade wound up stabbing his dad. I mean, he was tiny when this happened,
Right.
but that's how the story evolved into,
Stab him in
from
the shin.
something. I think it was a leg,
Like,
because they were
if he's
pretending
a
to play.
tiny guy.
He was playing to. He was a kid, right? And his dad was like, "Okay, we're gonna pretend I'm a monster, and I'm gonna jump out and scare you," and blah. And then Dave just kind of like lost his mind and stabbed his dad in the leg to protect his mom. But anyway, the question was, right? If you were to see one of these three things, what would it be and why? A UFO, a ghost, or Bigfoot?
I've seen a ghost.
Oh, thank God. Okay, I want to get into
Yeah.
that story then. So okay,
Yeah.
so you've
I've seen a ghost. I want to see a UFO.
Okay.
I don't think Bigfoot's real. Like, I mean, come on. I mean, unless Jose Canseco can find him, But I'm not gonna pay 30 grand to go out there, and
Exactly.
isn't that what it is? 30 grand to go
Something
hunt
like that.
Bigfoot with
And
Jose
you're getting
Canseco.
and even then it's probably someone in a suit to mess with you.
Yeah, why don't you just save the money and get them on Cameo?
Exactly.
Just like
Exactly.
dress up
Yeah,
as
that's
like
only
a
like $500 to get them on
yeah,
Cameo. It's
use a
like happy
Cameo
birthday.
filter. I found him. It's me. Raw.
Exactly. But a UFO. So you moved to Phoenix in 89,
Mhm.
and I graduated ASU 98. So the
Mhm.
Phoenix Lights was in 97. Did you see
I didn't.
those?
I
I didn't
didn't see
either.
him
I
live.
didn't either.
No.
See, I was driving. Actually, I was driving from ASU East, so I was driving west on 60. So I thought I would have seen them, but I didn't see them at
Mm.
all. So yeah,
Yeah, like but I mean, if you think about it, like they have to be real, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, they gotta be.
Well,
I mean,
like the movie
how?
Contact. If they're not out there, what a waste of space.
Yeah, like have you seen the new Challenger one that they have on
On Netflix?
Netflix about the
No, I haven't.
Challenger?
Go ahead though.
Did you
I
know
want
they were
to.
gonna? Do you know they were talking about sending Ralphie from A Christmas Story into space? Do you know
I
that? I
don't
didn't know that.
remember.
It
I
was
didn't
in
know
the
that either.
documentary. It was in the documentary. NASA's plan was to fly the teacher up first,
Yes.
and then they were going to fly a kid up.
And it
And
was
they were
Ralph.
saying it was
Peter
probably going to be
Billingsley.
Ralphie because he
Peter
was so into
Billingsley.
space. But I mean, it's if you look at the things that they're discovering now,
Yeah.
and the carbon dating, and like those
Right.
cities like what is it, Tobekli something in
Mm-hmm.
Hungary, where it's like you know like where the whole city was burned, what I'm or buried, what I'm talking about.
I
Tobeki, I think it's let me look it up.
we
But
go
there's
ahead.
other cities, and maybe, yeah, maybe I watch a little too much Ancient Aliens. I don't know,
I just,
but
I mean, so there was this radio host back in the late 90s, well, mid to late 90s and early 2000s. His name was Art Bell. And he
mhm,
dealt with this every night. It was always about aliens or ancient civilizations or whatever
mhm.
they saw on the moon or ghosts or possessions or witchcraft or all kinds of craziness. So that's why, it was it. But anyway, I
I
know that the name Temecula sounds familiar though.
Yeah, it's like it's something to Plecky, Doblecky or
Right,
something.
right,
I'll
right.
have to find it. But yeah, I mean, they found this city that's buried, and they've been excavating it,
Okay.
and like everything is immaculate, and these
Mm.
animal creatures that they made on the walls are like supposedly hundreds and millions of years old. I don't know, but I just like I just think they have to be out there. I mean, we got footage. I mean, the Pentagon said they're out there. I
Yeah,
just think we're hiding a lot of shit.
I think
But
that's brilliant too. The Pentagon said that they're out there. Well, the UFOs are out there, and then all of a sudden, but I mean, given all the crazy nonsense that's going on, it's like, okay, you said they're aliens. Moving on. No one
do you?
paid attention.
So here's a question for you
Yes,
on the alien thing.
please.
Do you buy the whole they're living underground and living in Antarctica?
See, that's the whole thing too. I don't think they're living in Antarctica. I don't think they're living underground. I don't and I'm not I'm not a fan of the whole hollow earth idea,
Mm,
but I still do believe that there are remnants of a civilization under Antarctica because of a pole shift, but
yeah, yeah, I
that's
agree.
that's me. That's just,
I agree.
fringe thought, but I
Yeah,
just there's so much we don't know about Antarctica that that's an absolute possibility. So,
yeah.
that's my thing.
Well, who knows? I mean,
Someone does. Them.
well, they know, right? I don't know. A lot of those conspiracies are pretty crazy, but
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, there's something out there.
There
I
could
mean,
be
there's
some legs
God,
to
there's
it.
something out there, you know.
Exactly. But you are my first guest that I have asked this question that has seen a ghost. So, how old were you and what was it?
Okay, so I I was in I was in San Jose,
Okay.
and
Down the road
we
from me, God help me.
yeah, I was doing the San Jose Improv, and I was staying at the big hotel downtown,
Okay.
and we were staying on the top floor
Mhm.
because Pablo got us a room. I was
Okay.
with Pablo at the time,
Right on.
and so we were in the room, and I literally woke up in the middle of the night, and there was like a lady in white, like looking at my buddy, and I blinked, and like I was like, come on, I didn't just see this, right? And you know what, at first I just told myself like, you're dreaming,
Right.
you don't see this,
Of course.
but and a lot of people are like, ghosts aren't real, spirits aren't real, but I call bullshit on that, because I can tell you a story right now, um if my fiance will let me. No, um like when we first started dating, she could like channel, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I know people are like rolling their eyes, whatever. But there was a time we just started dating, and she had asked me, and she was talking about it. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then she goes, does your grandpa or someone in your grandpa's family have like a violin?
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah. And then she goes, they're saying something about a chest full of medals or something, and a
Hmm.
violin and stuff like that. And then I was like, really? And then I was like, Tess, like what war? And I said, World War II. And that's when I was like, okay, this shit's real,
Oh,
because I
wow.
never said anything,
Of course.
to her, but my grandpa's brother
Mhm.
was a pilot in
Okay.
World War II, and he had a chest full of medals in his closet that every time I went to my grandpa's house, because he got shot down and
Mm.
killed, he was a
Right.
POW, and so he had all his like Purple Hearts and the cross and stuff like that. And the violin was his, that he
Oh,
gave to my
wow.
mom.
Okay.
And I was like, holy shit. Like that was
Yeah.
like date three. I was like, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
But
Does she
yeah,
still
I don't.
channel? Does she still do channeling or not so much?
No, 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 not really. It
Okay.
was just, but every now and then we like to go and stay in places like what is it, Hotel San Marcos downtown.
Yeah.
San Carlos is supposed to be like haunted, and stuff like that. I don't like that. Like for me, I hate scary movies. I
Same.
hate anything that jumps out at me.
Right.
I'm like, not gonna happen.
Nope.
Don't
Don't
want it.
give it.
Don't want it.
Moving
Yeah,
on.
I
Yeah.
can't watch it.
Both my daughters absolutely love horror movies. They love all the scary, they love horror movies because they think they're dumb. But I'm like, I
Mm,
can't watch that. I can't. Like, I love suspense movies, like maybe Cape Fear. Remember
yeah,
De Niro Cape Fear? I love suspenseful movies, but I just not into the horror gory stuff. So
right,
that
right.
is not what I'm into.
I don't mind gory. I don't mind like the horror if I can see the person that's about to jump out. You know how like sometimes
Oh,
they show the
fair.
bad guy
Yeah.
first and then the murder, the guy who's, Carol Baskin,
Right.
they show her first and then you kind of see them go up and attack the person. It's like,
Right.
okay, I can watch that. But when you got a clown coming out of a balloon, out of a
Yeah.
sink, yeah, no, I'll pass. I'm
Pass,
good.
pass,
I
pass.
remember seeing Scream. Remember the
Oh,
first
right.
Scream?
Absolutely.
Now looking back, I'm like, that was the dumbest movie I've ever
Yeah.
seen. But I remember being in the theater when it opened. That was some scary shit, man.
No,
Like
absolutely,
I
man.
hated hearing popcorn in the little from that first scene.
Exactly. It's like none of that, none of that. No, I got absolutely. So that's yeah. Horror movies can. I'm like Adam's Family. I'll do Adam's Family, maybe Beetlejuice, but I'm like, yeah, all that other scary stuff, not a
Well,
deal.
speaking of ghosts, the Comedy Store is haunted, right?
Please go ahead. Tell me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the Comedy Store in LA,
Hmm.
and if you have Showtime, they got a new documentary about it. But
Okay.
another really good book to read is I think it's called I'm Dying Up Here.
Okay.
It's all about the Comedy Store and comics in the 80s, like
Okay.
Leno and Letterman and those guys when they came up, and
Okay.
the comedy strike and stuff all happened at the Comedy Store. But
Okay.
the Comedy Store used to be a club that was owned by the mob,
Mm.
and apparently they were doing like illegal abortions in the
Oh wow.
basement, and um, I have a lot of good friends. One of them is the manager of it, and they're like, "Yeah, it's definitely haunted. Like
Mm.
there's stories of the the ghosts or the spirits that live there, and one of them was like an old hitman or something like that.
Wow.
This is like you can read about it online.
Sure.
But they hated. It wasn't Kennison. It was yeah, maybe it was Kennison.
Mm.
I think they hated, or who's the really loud one?
Franco's saying Wesley
No,
Franco's
who's
saying
the?
Kinnison.
Yeah, was it Kennison?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
with
they
the
hated him.
bandana and everything.
Yeah. They hated him, and it
The
was too
spirits
loud. And
hated him.
yeah, like, and they when he would go on stage, he would literally fight with them. He would yell at them and fight with them because they would mess with the lights
Oh
while he was on
wow.
stage because they hated him. And
Interesting.
like, yeah, like Rogan talks about the Comedy Store being haunted. Like they would talk about like getting high and going up into the belly room, which is upstairs, and just turning the lights out.
Uh
And then like there's stuff that happens downstairs. So like I don't I mean I go there, but I don't like going there. I don't know,
yeah.
just because that thought, man. I mean, there's a lot of weird shit that went on in
Yeah,
there,
see that's way too close for me because I
yeah,
mean
you
I
got to check it out. It's crazy.
because
Yeah.
it's like it is the Queen Elizabeth, like maybe it's a Queen Mary that's super haunted. I don't know which one.
Hmm.
Queen, that's the closest I've been. I mean, I was young and I was with my parents and they did that, but it never sat well with me. So it
Yeah.
always
Comedy Store.
yeah, Comedy Store. I'm dying here. Okay, I'll
I'm
check that one.
dying up here.
I'm dying up
I
here.
think's the name of the book.
I'll check that one out.
It's on Audible. I say book. I listen to
Do you?
Audible.
Okay, got it. Um, what's the talent? Let's see. Let me see. What's your greatest extravagance? Right. What is the thing you've? What thing do you have that you've spent the most money on just because you wanted it? Right. Just because it was cool or whatever else it was.
When I was when I was working for the Cardinals, I was making a lot of money at a dumb age, you know?
Right.
And so oh my God, I can't believe I'm even admitting to this. So for my for my 21st birthday,
Okay.
I went to Vegas because one of the casinos was one of my clients, and
Okay.
so they found out it was my 21st birthday, so I went up there for New Year's. My birthday is like Christmas Eve,
Right on.
and so I went up there for New Year's, and they put me up in the hotel, and like everything was paid for, and so I was in the club with my buddies, and we were hanging out, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy a couple bottles of Cristal. You
Okay.
know, whatever. Right? And so at the time, it was when it first was like big, when
Yeah.
like Diddy and all those guys are bringing it out. So it was like 700 a bottle, in the club.
Right.
And I asked my buddy, which was mistake number one. I should ask the waitress. I was like, "Hey, how much is a bottle of Cristal?" And he's like, "I don't know, like 200." I'm like, "All right, cool." I'm like, "Let's get like 4 of them, you know?" And then and then plus tip. And we were just dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a complete idiot. I was like spraying it out of my mouth,
Oh my God.
just being an idiot, drinking it out of the bottle. So that was probably the dumbest thing I ever bought.
That is the extravagance, isn't it?
But no, I just got a new computer,
Oh,
and
lovely.
new. I got a Dell G5
Oh, right
gaming
on.
computer. I like to day trade in the mornings,
Okay.
so wanted to get something fast. So,
Right.
yeah, it's cool. Like it, but
Yep.
I don't know. I also bought when I worked for Cardinals, I was making all the money. I would, if I went into a store and I saw a Citizen watch, I would buy it
Okay.
for no reason. Like, I don't know if you could see my arms. Like, look at
Huh?
that. Like, I would have watches on that. Like, why? That was before cell phone. Can't like
Before the Apple,
yeah. But
before Apple Watch.
and then they all got stolen. So, but
How?
somebody broke into my apartment, stole 'em.
No.
The week before I was moving out, and I didn't have my renter's insurance.
And
So yeah,
they
it was
freaking
also
knew.
the same week
Where?
that Pat passed.
Oh, it was.
Mhm.
What complex was that?
It was
Or what streets were you on?
it was off of Ray and the 101.
Oh,
It's off
okay.
of Federal.
Right on.
Yeah, it was kind of more towards the Ahwatukee area.
Got it. Okay.
So it's right off the 101.
So then, given that, but again, what is your most treasured possession then?
My
Outside of kid,
family,
outside of
outside of
family,
kids,
outside of
outside of
kids,
family.
outside of family. Yeah.
Does my wheelchair count?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Um, I'd probably say my house.
Okay.
Really, because I work hard. Like
Yeah.
right now, with my fiance being in school and taking care of the kids, I mean, she does so much,
Hmm.
like, because I physically can't do things. So it's like hard for her. And so, but I am the, sole income. And so,
Okay.
and we're fine. And, I was able to buy a house. I mean, it's in a trailer park, but whatever, it's a house, right?
It is a home.
And,
That's right. It's a home because the
yeah,
family
what
makes it a home.
comedians never lived in a trailer park? No, it's not that bad. But I would say that,
Okay.
because I think when I was growing up, I've always wanted a family in my own house and things like that. And so,
Very nice.
being able to finally provide for my family is probably the most important thing in my life, is making sure that they're taken care of.
That's excellent.
And all my autograph collection.
I
I
was gonna
have like
say they took all your watches, but they didn't take all your autograph
No, they
memorabilia.
didn't, thank God,
That's
because I
cool.
had a ton. I had ASU stuff. I had every visiting team that played the Cardinals for like 10 years. I had all their autographs. I had I randomly ran into Shaq in a Memphis airport, him and Anthony Hardaway. I'm telling you these stories, like, of random things, like just being in a place and
Right.
some random celebrity comes up, or whoever, athlete. And but I had uh oh, here's another story really quick. Sorry
Please.
for running out of time.
All good. No.
um Andre Agassi, do you remember him, the tennis
Absolutely.
player? Yeah, they
Absolutely.
used to play
Mr.
at the
Brooke
Scotts.
Shields.
Yep, they used to play at the Scottsdale Princess, and my
Oh,
parents just happened to sell the seat cushions there. And right where they were loading up the seat cushions was right where the cart took them for media, through the back.
wow.
And so he walked out, gave me like 4 autographed tennis balls, gave me the shirt he wore.
Did he have
And
the hair or was it
yeah,
short? Oh, got
he had the hair.
it.
And then Brooke Shields was there, Kenny G was there, and then the
Who had the more
Arizona
spectacular hair? I'm sure. I mean, like Kenny G, Andre
Brooke.
Agassi. Ah, see,
Yeah,
look
yeah,
at.
right. But then the Arizona Republic like wrote an article about me in the
Oh,
newspaper,
right on.
and it said
Okay.
Agassi's Day fan dash tastic, and it was all about me how I figured out where he was at and all the cool
Mm,
stuff he gave me.
got it.
So, yeah, I met a lot of really cool people. I think once I got older, it was more of like, I mean, no one asks for autographs
Right.
anymore, really. It's like selfies.
Yeah,
If I get a
exactly.
selfie with you, it's like, it's better proof than, oh, you scribbled that,
Yeah, exactly.
So
Everyone's
I
like,
don't
where's the
think,
certificate of authenticity?
yeah, I mean, Emmett Smith was the hardest autograph to get when I was a
Was
kid,
it?
and I snuck in and got it, and now it's worth nothing because all his autographs have to be microchipped. So that's
They
the
have
problem
to
with my
be.
autographs; they're all sentimental.
I think that's the key, right? I think it's like for me, I know that there's a few people that I would like to get autographs for,
Mm,
but like George Lucas absolutely hates to. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but George Lucas absolutely hates to give autographs, right? Because he knows
mm,
people grabs them and then they sell it, turn them around and sell them. But
yep.
for me, I want them personalized. I would like them to say to
Mm,
to Jedi, blah blah blah, and then
mm,
autograph because, like you said, it's more sentimental, right? And it's like
yeah.
no one cares, right?
Mm,
If it's tied to someone, they're like, okay, it's worthless. Well, no, it's not. It
mm.
means the world to me, right?
I'm just waiting till he gets a little even more older and a little less famous, and then I can like hit him up on like Twitter or something, and maybe he'll actually see it and respond and be
Right.
like, "Hey," I mean, that's why I was trying to before the show, I was trying to get in contact with Felipe Sparks
Oh, right on.
because yeah, because I saw him at a show at I did, and I
Cool.
saw him and we reconnected, and then I lost his number, but then
Ah,
so I was like, man, I got to get him to watch this because I want to tell him thank you personally
oh,
for,
that's brilliant.
just being such a great guy when I was, a little kid. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have gone back there and hung out with the players and
That's so cool.
kind of went on that journey. So it's like, good for him. He
Well,
deserved it.
Mr. Sparks, thank you for everything. Thank you for being a great Sun Devil, and thank you for,
Mhm.
watching us
Yeah.
talk back and forth and being part of that and being, thankful for what you're able to do. So excellent. So, what are you up to? What would you like to plug before we sign off? What do you got going on?
I honestly, just if you all want to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, right now it's still kind of up in the air with shows.
Hmm.
But we're gonna have some good. I got some unboxing videos I'm gonna do
Okay.
where I physically try and unbox like a package. I have one up on my Instagram, so check that out.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, follow me on like Facebook and Twitter, and once I start getting more and more shows, I'll definitely you know, let you guys know. Come on out, I'll give you guys some tickets and have a good time.
Well, however I can help promote or even chat through ideas, I am at your disposal, my friend. So
Sure.
thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I was like, oh man, I hope this is going to happen. I know we were talking about it for a while, and
Yeah.
then, there was a lot of stuff that happened, but then I was like, oh, football's back in, so he's probably going to have a lot of experts, and, you know, but I'm really glad we did this. Thank
No,
you.
I am absolutely ecstatic that we did it too, and we didn't get to talk about football, but this gives us a reason for you to be on one of the follow-up shows because I know
Yeah,
I'm going to be
see,
doing.
see how I did that?
Yeah,
See how I
exactly.
did that? 15 years of doing comedy. I know how to get invited
See, it's
back.
all the it's I'm purely tactical and you're very strategic playing that 3D chess. So
Yep, yep. We'll definitely have to talk football. I got a lot of, good thoughts about some of
I
these
can't
guys
wait.
coming in.
Yeah,
So,
because I want to hear because I know you're talking about some of the incoming guys. I want to
mhm.
talk about the season and everything else, but I can't thank you enough, my friend. I really love the fact that we got to connect.
Before I go, I got to
Please.
give you my list of the most nastiest block really quickly.
Oh,
So there's three guys: Marcus Bow, that's
yes.
MBOW on Twitter, and then Garrett Gillette, and then Ezra Dotson Todd. I think I
Okay.
don't know. I'm sorry, Ezra, if you ever see this. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but I'm a big fan. So they were posting videos
Okay.
of their high school games, right, and their highlights. And these three guys had the three nastiest blocks. And
Really?
we're talking pancake blocks. We're talking like guys just getting lit up, right? You have to watch them, find them on Twitter and follow them and
Got it.
watch their videos. But the winner is the best a man could get, Garrett Gillette, because this guy
He was the one.
straight up, he's like a tight end, right? And he was doing like a punt block,
Wow.
and he literally grabbed this kid and threw him on the ground, and it was like, damn, like, wow, like,
Wow.
I'm talking like you've seen guys get hit. This guy literally picked him up, like picked him up and just threw him on the ground
Right.
and then sprinted down the field. It was unbelievable. The other ones are really good too. Check all those guys out. But
That was the one. Did you?
that one block is unbelievable. I'll put it on Twitter.
Yeah, please put it on Twitter, and then we'll
Yeah,
retweet it out for everyone else. So that's
I
brilliant.
will. It's my favorite of the week. I'm sure they're gonna have more, but that's my vote for the
Absolutely.
week.
I love it. I love it.
So,
Thank you again, my friend. Stay on the Zoom. I'm going to do a couple of closeouts, and then we will catch up shortly afterwards. So just stay on the
all
Zoom
right.
call. Again, thank you again, everyone. This is Steve Krause, Short Bus Comedy on Twitter. Again, you'll be able to link to him off of that. So thank you again so much for that, Steve, and we'll talk shortly. As you can see here on this next slide, got the Sun Devil Summit on Friday, November 6th, and then the virtual tailgate on Saturday, November 7th. We have them both. One starting at 5:30 p.m. It'll be truncated. We'll probably be done before midnight because I have to be up at 5 a.m. the next day, and my sleep pattern and my liver will not allow that long of a run online. So make sure you send me an email, jediasu@gmail.com, to be part of that. As always, thank you so much for being part of the best damn social club in the universe, the 42 Social Club. Again, as the slide says, I love you. I cannot appreciate you enough for being on with me and Steve. Make sure you love yourself, as always, and more and importantly as well, love those around you. As always, whatever you need, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other guests. We will gladly love to connect with you, talk, share thoughts, and look forward to whatever else we have coming on in the week. But as always, wherever you are, make sure you go ahead, be with those around you, and always remember to be social. Good night, everyone.